Are we live?
I believe so, yeah. Just want to say hello and welcome to everyone watching, going to watch after this has been uploaded to the first episode of Review Lounge. In the very first episode, we'll be discussing the events surrounding one of the speakers over there at Speaker's Corner called Raj, and discussing his racism, his support for another racist called Tan, his bigotry towards disabled people, in particular those of Pakistani descent, and how he got ejected today from the park. I'd like to welcome my first three guests, Saracen, King, and EBTV.
Assalamu alaikum.
Salam. Walaikum salam.
Assalamu alaikum.
How are we doing all today?
Very good.
Yeah, we're doing good.
A bit shocked today. It's been a bit of a mad one today, isn't it? Been Speaker's Corner. It's 2 weeks in a row. Bit crazy.
Yeah, he's going 2 for 2. Crazy.
Yeah, I think this is going to be the new norm from now on.
Yeah, I
It's,
think you're right.
It's
I
Think-
don't see anyone shedding tears or racists being ejected from the park one by one.
No,
Apart from
No.
other racists, of course.
and to be honest, let's be honest. There wasn't any real violence, was there? Like, I mean, people are trying to big it up, and they people are pretending are being victims now. But let's be really honest. No one really got attacked. Yes, people got walked out the park. They went into a police car. They mouthed it off, and they feel like they've done really well. But no one really got hurt. So,
Exactly. No one was. But I don't think anyone even got a hand laid onto them. I mean, they
No.
had police escorts, undercover police, and whatnot. So
Yeah.
they had it pretty good.
Yeah, and I was just listening to Raj's live stream just a short while ago, and yeah, he certainly feels that he's won. he certainly feels that he's come out quite high, and hopefully maybe we can just discuss what Raj is about in a bit. But I'll let you obviously lead the show.
Yeah. So well, I guess I mean Raj was always a character causing controversy, and it was quite clear from the get go that he came to the park with a mission to tackle Muslims or Islam in his own special way, whatever that is. Um, I believe we all know Mohib, right?
Yes, I know what yeah.
So Mohib's a really chilled out, relaxed guy who does rap and all of that stuff at the park. So he's not the most strictest of Muslims, if you will. And he witnessed Raj saying just outside of Speaker's Corner something along the lines of let's go bash Islam now, or let's go Islam bashing. So his motives were clear from a very long time ago.
I think you're right. I think you're absolutely. He's definitely come with an agenda to demonize Muslims, 100%. And where I think we'll probably do a show on this maybe next week or the week after, which I'll show people what Raj is really about and what he hopes to start. He basically wants to start a kind of a religious conflict between the Sikhs and Muslims. Unfortunately, Raj being an outcast from even his own community, no one really backs him. So he's trying to start this and call these Sikh brothers, like he says every week. You know, the Sikhs are coming, the Sikhs are coming, my brothers are coming. But in fact, hardly any Sikhs have actually turned up to back him. And I think he was probably quite happy with his performance today because he wants people to be racist towards Sikhs. He wants us to lose our standards, be aggressive and say rude things. That's why I tell the brothers, don't be derogatory to other faiths. It's haram. And,
Yeah, exactly.
the Sikh people are generally Muslim people, and Sikhs generally get along. Sikhs are generally good people. They just get degenerates, lowlifes like Raj, who are trying to live in the 90s with the Pakistani and the Sikh kind of wars, which he probably had a role in.
Yeah, I mean, we all know every community has their degenerates and their low lives, but what's troubling is that for months on end, Raj has behaved in this way and had his motives and his agendas, and no Sikh has really come out to try and shine a different picture regarding them as a people. They've just let Raj be the forefront, and he's a massively negative image of their people. So it's surprising no one's come forward to shine a positive light on them. I mean, for all the the bad apple Muslims, so to say, you have in the past. There's so many good ones to show you another side, but there hasn't been that from the Sikh community.
There has been Tarochan, who there's a Sikh guy. His name Tarochan. He
Yeah,
comes in.
Tarlochan, yeah.
Is it EB? Is that his name? Have you
Yeah,
seen that
his
Sikh
name is
bro?
his name is
Yeah,
Tarlochan,
he's
and
cool. Cool.
yeah, so Saracen, his name's Tarlochan, and because he wasn't bigoted and had the views that Raj did, Raj did a smear campaign against his own Sikh brother Tarlochan, saying that he's not even a real Sikh because apparently he's also married to a Muslim. So he thinks
Okay,
because
and
of
he
that,
takes drugs and stuff like that.
yeah,
Yeah, he was
he's
saying something
accused
like that.
him of being a crackhead or smoke or snorting coke, and then the following week he said no, I was lying about that, and the week after he claimed he was a crackhead once again. So
Wow.
this guy, yo-yos more than a yo-yo.
Yeah, he tries to threaten and divide people. So he'll say, "Oh, don't think I don't know like about you and stuff." So even recently, someone's asked in the comments, talk about your text message. I'm not going to go into it too much, but basically, the way he will stir you up, he'll come to me, he'll say something, he'll get me to write something, and then he won't put his side of what he's actually done, and then he'll try to blackmail you with that. But at the end of the day, someone's attacking throwing the Quran on the floor, making fun of Muslims, etc., etc. I'm not going to take that. You know what I mean? There's a red line, and then when you speak out against him, he'll try to blackmail you, or he'll try to divide the community. But at the end of the day, like I said on Sage channel, that's all sorted now. I've said what I had to say on that. We're trying to focus on the unity, and now he's trying to stir shit. Even today, he was bringing up when Sayed was talking to him about his role, and he was saying, "Why are you being racist to Pakistanis?" He was saying, "Oh, ha ha ha, they killed." No, he wasn't saying ha ha ha, but he was saying that they've attacked Bangladesh, like they've killed your. He's a very divisive sort of person. He's trying to divide the community. So we as Muslims got to be a bit more smart than that, and not let him succeed. He's very conniving.
Yeah, I mean he doesn't think about the repercussions it can have for both communities.
I
And
think he does.
yeah,
I mean, today on his live stream, he was saying that you lot are playing. I don't know what's going on because you lot are playing Connect Four, and I'm playing chess. So he's obviously very aware of what's going on. So yeah, where's EB gone? And where's Muad?
I'm unsure. Hopefully they'll be back with an ad in there, voice their
Yeah,
opinions.
yeah,
But
come back.
I mean, yeah, I mean it's disgusting if you have people like that who deliberately do these things to divide communities, knowing the history between the two communities hasn't always been good.
Yeah, I think let's talk about that because we'll go into it inshallah a bit later on
Yeah,
in
yeah.
in another show. But basically, Raj supports neither India or Pakistan. He's
Mhm.
basically what you call a Khalistani. He wants Khalistan, meaning a Sikh homeland,
Yeah, yeah, separate state for
separate
Sikhs.
state, which means that what they aim to do is take over Punjab, which is in India, and in Pakistan. Now, of course, as a Pakistani who's from the Punjab, I've got an issue with that because
Yeah,
there's more Punjab in Pakistan than there is in India. We've got a bigger population. So for you, if you're going to claim for Khalistan, even though it might start in India, it will go into you're going to try to repatriate, or as you say, Pakistan, and you're going to obviously that's going to lead to some war. That's why they like to show their military stuff. I mean, these are the extremists. They're extremist people. Before the show started, we were talking about the extremists that they follow.
yeah. Let me tell you about one guy who took that even further. Who's one who's very respected in. I don't want to really say anything too negative because the guy has passed away. You see,
Mm,
but in my opinion, he was the most popular. I think they call it the Bar Charik, which is like Dawa guy for Sikhs
right, yeah.
in the world. It's most definitely in Europe.
Mm,
And his name, and he came to Speaker's Corner a few times. His name was um, Jagraj Singh, and Raj
yes,
often refers to him as Bhai Jagraj. But
yes.
regarding what you were just saying about
Mm,
Khalistan, I watched one of his videos on his channel, Basics of Sikhi,
yes.
and and he was answering a question regarding that, and he said, "Why just take over Punjab when we could take over all of India?" So
Yes.
imagine a Muslim said that. Let's just take
Yes.
all of the UK. Someone of his standing said that. That would be considered as extremism,
Oh,
as
they,
someone taking over a
then
plot, some conspiracy theories. The guy would be being watched over by police.
they're definitely extremists. There's absolutely no doubt. If you just substitute Khalistan for caliphate, you know, that's exactly what they're asking for. You know, when Muslims asked to re-establish the Khilafah, these guys want to re-establish the Khalistan, or whatever it is. They want to re-establish that, and they dress up in their war kind of uniforms. They
Yeah,
practice their sword fighting. They have a very strong martial code, which is difficult because part of that is within the Sikh faith, but they've kind of twisted the teachings of Sikhi, and they attack other Sikhs. So if you go in places like Birmingham and Leeds, there are other sort of Sikh sects that they actually physically attack. One of the people who will do a show on this guy, the terrorist that took over in 1984, and the Indian government had to go in.
hmm
He went round and he actually shot other Sikhs. He literally
oh,
shot them, and if you read like the people, the priests, what they said about him, he was very young, he was very strong, he was very well versed within the Sikh religion, but he would use verses that suited him within like their holy books, and he'd prey on the uneducated. And the reason he took over in 1984 the Golden Temple was because he wanted to get the Sikhs to come together and rise for Khalistan. So he knew exactly what he was doing. He knew if the Indian government go in, this gonna kind of lead to an uprising. And
and they use the Golden Temple as the hub
the
where you
Golden
can
Temple's a
have
hub.
weapons and things in the
Yeah,
most
that's
holiest of
it's
sites.
it's a sacred site, just like Mecca's sacred to us.
Yeah,
And it was wrong. And another thing that you'll see is that they don't call themselves, and this is like Raj. They won't call themselves Indian. They'll call themselves Punjabi. So
yeah,
therefore,
yeah.
when people don't attack India, like I'll say to like you Indian, go back to India. Don't say that. They don't actually feel they're Indian. They call themselves Punjabi, which is offensive to me because, like I said, there's more Punjabis in Pakistan there are in India, So you can't hijack that kind of word, like that's not your kind of ethnicity just to take, and they associate Sikhism with Punjabi. No, mate, Punjab is vast. It's vast. If you go into Wikipedia now and see how many people there are in Punjab in India and see how many Punjab there are, I think we got 3 times the amount number within it. So, and now they've got societies, haven't they?
Yeah, and there's a it's kind of weird because you realize most Sikhs don't even realize that Pakistan has a larger portion of Punjab. They
That's what
they,
I was saying.
they only think that they have Punjab is theirs. They are unaware
Yes.
that it exists across the border.
Yeah. Well, they don't see us as Punjabi. That's the thing. They just they use derogatory words against us, which will show. They call us basically Sulle, which is to do.
Yeah, yeah. I want to ask you. I'm glad you brought that up, Saracen.
Mm,
So two derogatory words that I've heard, not being said to me, but just things that I knew of after having the experiences with Sikhs is what one which you just mentioned, Salle, or
mm,
how you pronounce that, Sulle, and
mm.
the other one was Masle, or however you pronounce that.
Yeah, I don't even know what the second one is, but I've
Oh, right,
certainly.
okay.
I remember like at uni, would be people used to think I was Sikh because it's maybe because I used to hang around with some Sikh friends at uni and stuff like that. But they said they would use it casually, and then you'd see the nudge.
So
I
did
thought,
you
oh no.
find out what it actually meant?
And what basically means that if you're circumcised, it's a derogatory term.
Mm,
It means that basically your penis is cut, and they use it to take the mick,
right.
and it's very very derogatory. So I remember once, we were. This was years ago when I was younger. We were in a club, and they were going around shouting it, and these Pakistanis turned up in Walthamstow because this was in Walthamstow,
Mm,
and they got beat the shit out of. Like
right.
literally, it was so like say it again, because it's so
Maybe they
derogatory.
thought they were in speaker's corner at the freedom of speech helping them.
Well, this is the thing, and Raj is still very much part of that. So what Raj wants to do is, he lives in this fantasy world where he's a Sikh warrior. So he draws these pictures. Of this week, he's been drawing these pictures of the 21 Sikhs versus 10,000 Afghans, which, if you actually see how many people actually died, it was about 500 to 600.
Yeah, we definitely need to do an episode on the battle of what's Saracen guy or whatever.
So yeah, exactly. Well, fair play. It was a strong stand, but they did have guns, and they were on top of a hill, and they were fighting people with like little swords in a cramped
Yeah, we
area.
need to go into the details of how exactly the battle took place. Or did someone have the high ground? Did they have better weapons? Were they backed by a greater military?
Yeah,
And actually, what were the Sikhs doing in Afghanistan in the first place?
Well, I think it opens a can of worms. I think that, they were defending. It's a complicated, but basically there were certain people within the so-called Mujahideen. There was a guy called Ahmed Raza Khan Breli, not Brelvi, because there's a different. This is Ahmed Raza Khan Breli, and basically he was a Sayyid, and this was a time where the British had taken over. So he started what we call. People started saying, "Oh, because you're from the family of the Prophet ﷺ, you're the Mahdi." So he actually went around saying he's the Mahdi, and they started this Mujahideen movement. And part of that, the British caught on. So he started getting a lot of followers, and they went into Afghanistan, and they had like guerrilla kind of warfare there. So my understanding is that the British went after them, and amongst them were big Sikh contingents. Because remember, this is just before the Afghan Sikh
you're saying
wars.
that the Sikhs had a regiment within the British Army?
Yes, the Sikhs have always kind of, after the Anglo-Sikh wars, the Sikhs have always been quite loyal within the British Army. So, and then remember, there was a lot of Afghanistan was colonized by Sikhs as well, under Ranjit Singh, Maharaja Ranjit Singh. So there were, even up until very recently,
I
you
believe
had
his
quite a lot.
empire lasted for only 50 years, I believe, something like that.
Yeah, no, but I mean, he was a great. Like, he was actually really good. Like, if you speak to people in Pakistan, like when I go to Lahore, like they will actually tell you, he was very just. He built mosques. He kept people like respectful. He was better than the
To be
British.
fair, on the flip side, I've also heard that he did shut down Azan from being heard from mosques.
Okay, maybe.
I mean, everyone's not perfect, and also you
No.
actually hear other than Sikhs being proud of him because he was like their main king and had an empire for 50 years, a Sikh empire. Other than that, you'll hear that he wasn't very religious. He was extremely liberal. He had many concubines and things like that.
And Ustad Adnan talked about this. He said like he even
Which is
had
why
like Muslim concubines, didn't he?
which is why you can also probably say maybe he was lax on the Muslims and not so harsh simply because he had that lifestyle and he wasn't devoted to his religion as heavily.
Possibly, but I think within the Sikh religion, you've also got some people that say, it doesn't matter if you're Sikh, you're Muslim, you're Hindu, do your thing. Like, you know what I mean? As long as, and I think
you also have people who are on the other extreme who say these people who say that they don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, you do get that. I mean, generally speaking, from what I've heard, what I've read, from the people of Lahore, when I go to Lahore, they really respected Ranjit Singh. They said he was a great kind of leader, and the British kind of took over, and they kind of stirred a lot of hatred amongst Sikhs and Muslims and Hindus, etc. Even when they left, they just big line across Punjab, which led to a lot of the kind of the kind of fighting afterwards, which lots of people from both sides were killed and raped. And unfortunately, this is very much the narratives that you see now in the UK. They very much live off two things. The first thing that the Sikhs are taught now, across a lot of the Gurdwaras by people like Sikh Youth and SAS, is that they keep on getting reminded of the Mughal oppression of the Sikhs.
Yeah. Also, I want to just touch up on something, just a minor thing. Some Gurdwara, right? When you enter them, they have actual paintings on their walls of the so-called atrocities that the Mughals committed on their gurus and their people. So, can you imagine that as a person, every time you walk into a so-called holy space, all you see is atrocities reminding you and then to hate on this community. That's why, if you look at the past, like was it 1 million or so died during the 1947 partition, right? On the Sikh side and the Muslim side.
Yeah.
Muslims, they don't really acknowledge that Sikhs exist in a good way, right?
Well,
They're not on
this
the
is
back of
it.
our minds.
No.
But when they go into the Gurdwara, they're reminded by these horrible paintings of these guys done this to you, and then they have derogatory terms like Salli and Masli, and then
Yeah.
you have this whole grooming stuff, and that's all they talk about 24/7. The
This
Raj
is
is the
it.
outcome of that. He's the product of that.
He's a product of that. And the thing is, the educated Sikhs also know that the amount of love between, especially the Sufis, Muslims, within that, there was many times that Sikhs and Muslims supported each other. And the educated ones are reminded of that. So they don't have hatred towards the mainstream. But this is why I say the low class ones, they live off that. So there's two things, like I said. The first is the Mughal kind of conquest and all the oppression that they say that they face, but they won't tell you the good bits where there was some good, sort of.
Yeah, they painted it like this
This
narrative of
it's
good
just
versus evil,
oppressed,
light versus
oppressed,
dark.
oppressed, oppressed. Muslims
Yeah,
oppress you. Muslims oppress you,
yeah,
and then you have the second bit where the partitioned. They don't ever tell you it's a balance, that there was also atrocities from the Sikh side.
yeah, a
They will just
lot.
tell you Sikhs were women were raped, they were forced. Yeah, fine, it's true, it happened. We acknowledge that, but be fair, be just. You know what I mean? It happened on both ways. So though that's how in the UK, especially, this is how Sikh identity is kind of formed. Whereas for us as a Muslims, we come from a massive ummah.
Mm.
So for the Arabs or the Africans, the Somalis, this thing isn't really important. It's just seen as like a local skirmish or a local
Exactly.
kind of,
Yeah.
in the
You
grand
see, Saracen,
scheme
if
of
you yeah,
things.
if you think about it, um, the Muslims involved in see for Sikh history, the Mughals slash Muslims, they
Yes,
play a giant role in their entire existence, in their
exactly.
history, in who they are and what they had to go through.
Yes,
Whereas for if you look at the Muslim history over the 1400 year period, the
yeah.
Mughals were just another empire.
Another
They're
empire,
just another
right?
drop in the bucket of Islamic history.
Yes,
But for them, the Muslims in their history were a giant part of the history.
yes,
That's
yes,
why they just can't leave it alone.
yes. And this is it. This is the thing, isn't it? It's like,
And I would like to just make an analogy to that. It was like you had the British Empire,
mm,
which ruled over half the world and went here and colonized here, right?
yeah,
And they were in America as well. But then you have American history, which all it's about is the British Empire. It's
exactly.
that in the same sense.
Exactly. And then this is how they define themselves in the UK. So Raj, for example, is a product of that. He has grown up with this kind of, this whole kind of narrative that, and because he's autistic, and I'm not saying this as a disrespect, but he says, like today on his live stream, he's saying, I can listen to the same song over and over and over again for 10 years, whereas most people who quote unquote are normal couldn't do that. So he's grown up with this thing, and he's latched onto this, that Muslims are the oppressors, Muslims are the bad guys, Muslims groom our women, Muslims groom my cousin. I'm not sure if it's actually true, because if you look at this research that's gone into this, like every single case, like I'm sure it's happened a few occasions, but when you look at the Met Police statistics and the research that they've done, where they've alleged that so many Muslims have groomed their girls, there's not much to support their claims. In fact, the Met Police, if you ask them, they'll say, no, we haven't really found that this is true.
Mm-hmm.
There may have been the odd occasion. This is why I somewhat now doubt Raj's narrative about his cousin, because he can very quickly bring this kind of emotion out, and it's all
Yeah.
scripted. It's scripted. He's got this emotion, and he's very tactical in what he's doing. Like he said, he's playing chess. So I actually don't believe his
In his
cousin was
opinion, playing
groomed.
chess, yeah.
No, I actually don't believe his cousin was groomed. I think he
Yeah.
uses it as an emotional kind of thing to get attention.
Yeah.
He's 100% a narcissist. And if you look at what a narcissist does, and I urge people to YouTube this, is look at the traits of a narcissist. Raj is the classic narcissist that's loving
So you're
attention
saying he
right
fits
now.
that definition like a glove.
Absolutely, and he will do anything for attention. And when he's not part of it, he'll try to get in. I remember, I don't know if you saw when Sarah returned to the Sarah returned
Oh,
to the
he
park,
left him
and
hanging.
he tried to fist bump him.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
That
that
was
was
great.
that was class. That was one of the
That
funniest
was
things in
funny.
Speakers Corner, like last year. The
Yeah, one of
return
his
of Sarah.
heroes.
That's what I'm saying. And then he goes around saying, I'm trying to be cool by hanging around with Leon.
They say don't
And
meet your idols because they disappoint you.
this is it. And now they got like a little degenerate crew of him, Manny, Hassan, the little midget woman that pulls
Yeah,
hair.
the woman with black hair. Yeah,
Yeah, she goes around pulling people's hair. It's just a weird like bunch of misfits.
it really
Uh,
is.
it really is, isn't it? It's like they're all such misfits. But I don't. I mean, I don't think people should bully them. Like it's almost like, what do you do with someone like
And
that?
to be honest, what I've seen, Raj hasn't really been bullied. I mean, if anything, he's given
He's the
way
bully.
more than he's received,
Yeah,
far
yeah.
more, including his online stuff, where he really goes on racist rants,
Racist
tries to
runs.
label people.
And he tries to cover it up. Well, he calls Pakistan the most obscene things. Really, and he doesn't qualify his statements at the time. He says absolutely disgusting. And then he'll say, "Oh, it's because of blasphemy laws," which he actually has no kind of
He has no,
understanding of.
yeah, he has no
Nothing.
idea what they mean, how it's implemented,
How it came
etc.
across, how it's a British law that came from India, 295, how that was then changed to 2958, then 2295C, how that came about. Just blame
But
Sharia,
this is what
Sharia,
happens when you
Sharia.
don't do your research. You have this the hateful narrative, and you just open your
Exactly.
mouth at every opportunity. You look like an idiot.
Well, this is exactly it. And all he wants to do, he actually, and this is what frustrates me with people like him, Hassan, Tan. They actually don't want to learn the truth. They don't. They won't
They're
resign.
definitely not
If
interested. No.
they're not interested, they've got an agenda. And this is what we say: they've got an agenda. And they just want to promote that agenda. And if they've made up their mind, it's kind of an arrogance. So if someone tells me something, I research it, I'm open to changing my mind. I could be wrong. But with them, no, absolutely no. It's Sharia law, it's jizya, and it's derogatory. And it's actually, if you look at what we're facing right now, it's what we call cultural racism, because there is a narrative in the West now that they'll say to you, "Oh no, Islam, I can't. It's not race. It's a religion." Well, then race was invented, right? It's a product of the 19th century. There wasn't.
Not only that, Saracen, but the thing is, right? If you were to get the statistics of how many Muslim of the 1.8 billion Muslims are in the world are
Yeah,
of people of color, you'd find there's an overwhelming majority. So that's why racists can easily hide behind
they
the
hide
"I
behind it.
hate Islam" narrative.
But check this, bro. Check this. This is why it's called cultural racism, because these guys aren't interested in what Islam is. They'll just throw buzzwords and they insult and they hide behind that. They hide behind this saying that Islam is not a race, it's a religion, and religion is an idea. No, because if you look at Islamophobia, after 9/11, the first person to killed was actually a Sikh. Because they thought he was a Muslim. Gurdwaras and Sikhs are attacked.
Yeah,
Now, if
even today, even
no,
recently, I
no,
think
but
it was just
there's the
this year
point.
as
There's
well.
the point. Can you see the point? That if it was just a religion, why are you attacking Sikhs for? It's
Exactly.
they seeing it through a
They
cultural
just see a
lens.
brown guy with a
They're
turban with a
seeing a
beard.
brown face, so therefore it's cultural racism. And I think we as Muslims, we have to promote this, because we have to promote that. The concepts of race has changed. Alhamdulillah, we're really in this country. I think there's good laws to protect people, but it seems like it's open day on Muslims, and anyone can say anything
Yeah,
about them.
and then use a guise of freedom of expression and speech to
Freedom of
do that.
expression. I was watching this documentary about the 70s and the 80s, and there was banners, and guess what it said? Britain first. No, it said Britain's first, meaning for NHS, etc. And it said freedom of speech, and they would walk around with the front, and these were the nasty NFBMPs, freedom of speech. They've always hid behind that. And the thing is, they don't understand the world we live in. It's so dangerous. It's so dangerous. So now you're in Speaker's Corner. You got cameras that are going across the world. You're getting people. If you look at the Muslim population now, like you look at the education, you look at the poverty, you look at people who have been bombed, who have been abused, who've got no hope. So when you're going down ridiculing their religion, unfortunately, people, all you now need is an extremist to come twist the story. Look how the kuffar hate you. Look what the kuffar are saying. They don't understand freedom of speech.
Like yeah, exactly. That's one thing Raj loves to do. I think it was Muhammad Tawheed gave a speech around Christmas time, around Christmas, about how it's to do with paganism. He's just explaining it, right?
Mm.
And Raj tries twisting that into all Muslims hate Christmas, look how they hate, British culture, this, that, and the other.
Well, I'll be very honest with you. I thought that wasn't a very good speech.
I mean, there's a way of saying things, politically
No,
correct
no.
way,
But
and
the thing is, I mean, they definitely don't get on anyway. I'll probably avoid that topic right now. But yeah, I mean, I just didn't think that was very smart. We got to kind of watch ourselves and what we do and how
yeah,
we
most
act.
definitely, yeah.
I think we've got a responsibility for our brothers and sisters in this country and across the world to really, really think about how we come across, because there's a massive kind of agenda out there to really demonize us, and it's got billions and billions of pounds of funding. So people like Raj, why did they get a platform with Tommy Robinson? you
Yeah,
know, how
actually,
did he get a top?
at that
How?
day of the Freedom event, or whatever it's called,
Right?
you
Yeah.
had characters from Speaker's Corner given
Yes.
like prime time. Like they were in his tent. You had Raj, you had Steve the Atheist.
Yes.
There are two guys from Speaker's. That's funny.
Yeah.
At that time, Raj didn't even really have his online platform.
No, and the thing is, they've got networks. They've got networks, not just in this country, across the world. So that something will happen in Speaker's Corner, right? And then they'll put it on in a video in America, Jihad Watch, or in Australia. Look at Muslims. Look how they're attacking freedom of speech. Look how they're attacking the indigenous community. And then you've got professional trolls like Amy, like Tan, who are coming there just to stir up trouble, and Raj to some degree. They want to say stuff, and it's not. They don't give a shit about freedom of speech. They all they care about is to trigger people, right, and to get a reaction, get sensationalism, and they'll put it across their networks in Germany, to cause problems for Muslims, and I think we've shown quite good kind of up until very recently. I think there's been incredible like patience shown by Muslims.
I would actually
Oh,
say until very recently as well, with the whole time throwing the Quran on the floor issue. No one
yeah,
laid a hand on him.
no. And if we were so bad, if we were so aggressive, if our religion teaches us to kill Kufran, yeah, what are you doing in Speaker's Corner? Like, how come you guys have never been touched? Yeah, there's been the odd skirmishes and people being pushed, but no one's seriously got hurt, stabbed, killed, or anything like
Not
that.
only that, it defeats the purpose of the Muslims even going there. They're there specifically to do dawah to the non-Muslims, if you like.
Right, right. And the thing is, so how do you deal with people like Tan if he comes next week? Because apparently he's not banned, according to Omar, who they call Rat Boy. He did a little thing on Mr. Rax. He said that Tan is apparently going to come back next week. How do you deal with someone like Amy, who's probably going to be joining him? What do you do when they're going and they're going to be insulting you? Because unfortunately, yes, we can ignore them, but there's going to be some youngsters or some people who aren't going to do it, who are going to approach them, who are going to give them a platform, or these kind of professional trolls will turn up in and go into Muslim groups and try to get reaction. So what do you do?
I mean, all the Muslims can do is get the main guys who are known there for the dawah and the elder guys to just tell the youngsters, chill. This isn't the streets, This is Speaker's Corner where this
I,
stuff is
I
allowed.
actually disagree because I've actually thought about this.
Mm.
And I think, in Speaker's Corner, people are allowed to wear masks. They're allowed to cover their face if they don't, because there's cameras there. You know, I think, we've got a fair amount of people. Now, there's something called the traditional old political protest. I don't know if you know what that is.
Oh,
You can throw flour on people.
all right.
You can throw foam on people's face. I would do that. I would like literally spray them and then run off. Police aren't going to chase you. Police aren't going. They haven't got. There's thousands of your face is covered. Like I would do that, and as long as no one gets harmed by it,
Yeah, well,
it's gentle. It's
yeah.
gentle.
Well, that's all fine and dandy. I think it could lead to escalation. Like the following week, someone might throw something else. So one day it might be hot oil. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, but generally, like if you look at the history of Speaker's Corner, people like you look at politicians, they get flowered all the time. It's a
Mm.
way of showing your discontent against the most disgusting people, and you're not going to get much trouble for it. Maybe you might get done for public disorder, you'll get nicked, and then they'll probably release you without charge. But I would honestly say, like, if people are obviously people like the mainstream people who people know at Speaker's Corner, they can't do it. But the youngsters who actually want to do something, who aren't very well known, consider it. But obviously, don't go over the top. Don't hurt anyone. Don't have the intention of hurting anyone. But if you're just going to throw a pie at someone's face, or if you're just going to throw some flour on them and run off and embarrass them, that's been going on. If you look at the history of Speaker's Corner since it started. So, I wouldn't recommend egging because people like Amy will probably start rolling on the floor and saying,
Yeah,
"Oh,
but that's the thing, Sarah. Now you've thrown flour on someone, right?
mm,
Amy would come back next week to throw bacon on a Muslim. That's what I mean by escalation.
what bacon?" I know bacon could be
So that you
seen.
would be there all
No,
day.
flour's
Oh,
neutral.
flour, doing flour, and then
Yeah,
she'll be like, "Oh, all I do is bacon."
no, bacon could be seen as it could be seen as actually a hate crime
Mm-hmm.
because she's
It's
very
specific,
well,
yeah.
she's very well aware that
But
Muslims do.
these vile, scummy people, they do that anyway.
I
They're trying to
mean,
do that.
personally, to be honest with you, if I first went to speak to someone, people didn't know me, I would definitely cover my face and throw some flour on these turds. I mean, to borrow a term off them.
I'm definitely not saying they don't deserve it.
No. I think what's worse, you got people like Tan, right? They're going to be coming in week in, work out. If we were all armed with flour, right? It's not. No one's going to get hurt seriously. You're throwing flour on them. They're going to have to wash their clothes, wash their face. They look like idiots if they're going to be saying something. It'll get rid of these kind of idiots, and yeah, they're going to have to. But more so, it'll also get the police's attention, which is what we kind of need right now. I don't think they're doing a good job. You've got Raj who's making openly racist remarks, and perhaps
Yeah.
it's our
So
problem.
let's get back onto that then about his racism and his derogatory comments towards disabled people in Pakistan.
Mm. So, if those who don't know who are listening in, maybe now or later
Yeah, I
on,
think he's doing a really good introduction to people. So a brief sort of history of Sikhs and Muslims and why certain Sikhs like Raj hold so much resentment towards Muslims.
right? So yeah, we've done that. So he's now basically going on this kind of thing about cousin marriage, which is another kind of racial slur, especially at Pakistanis who
Can I
tend to
ask you,
do it.
Saracen, is that more prevalent in the Indian subcontinent Muslims rather than all like Muslims around the world, or how's that work?
Yes, it's very. I mean, in India, for example, especially in the Punjab area, you have a lot of it was a feudal rural culture. So you have kind of people who had mass land, and land was what was important there. So to keep it within the family, you had kind of different castes. So keep it within the caste and the family. So if I married my cousin, at least I know that land stays within the parameters of the family. Whereas if I married it to someone, if I married my daughter to someone out from a different caste or from a different part, then unfortunately that land, let's say the man would get the land. Do you get what I
So
mean?
keeping the house in money was
it
the
was
main
one
motivation
of the
behind it.
main reasons why a lot of people got
Okay.
so within the caste system. So that kind of, if you look at the most of the people who emigrated to the UK
Yeah.
from especially in Pakistan, you know, a lot of them people came from people who worked within the kind of villages who came from
Yeah.
those kind of rural backgrounds.
Weren't most of them like the Pakistani ones at least Mirpuri?
Mainly, I think it's about 75 to 80% are Mirpuri, right?
And they came
So
to and they got invited over to work in the factories because
correct. Yeah, I
even
mean,
then the British, the English, they didn't want to do those sort of jobs.
100%. And they used to, and you know, I've spoken to people where they've told me, and there's like, you know, it's confirmation of this, where British people would go in India at the time, or when it was, or where Pakistan at the time, and they would have signs, come to England, we need people to work in our factories. These were people who would work late hours, you know, very, because remember, after the Second World War, Britain was completely, you know, there's big parts of Britain that were completely destroyed. The
Yeah.
economy needed to get back. You know, you needed people who could do the work for it. So you know, there was this
Who
project
would do so much work for that
so much
amount of
work.
money, yeah.
And the ethic of these elders was incredible. You know, they'd work 12-hour shifts, have, you know, probably longer than that, probably 18-hour shifts sometimes. You know,
But
and
people often overlook this, but put yourself in their shoes. They go to a land where they do not know the language, they don't know the culture, the food is foreign to them. They're starting a whole new life when they go into to work.
right. So that's exactly what's happened. And now they have to get married. So they're not going to be able to go and meet, like, who are they going to meet? There's not many women here, so they're going to go back home to get married. Now you haven't got time to go around and meet lots of women, so they're going to get married like the traditional rural. This is the rural culture, and I'll tell you something about this in a second. Is they're going to marry their cousin? So they married their cousin, first, second generation. I mean, my parents didn't, neither did I. I never married my cousin. But you see, times are changing now. A lot of Pakistanis aren't marrying their cousins, you know. But there was a time that happened.
Mm.
But here's the interesting thing: if you look at Sikhs, they did the same.
All right, it's
You see,
interesting.
this is what they don't know. So if you I can't share the screen now, but if you look at you know, I did some kind of research on this, and yeah, there was actually whole kind of Sikh groups that did that. You know, and especially, and Raj will just dismiss it as, oh, it was just the Afghans that used to do it. It's not actually true. You know, there were many Sikhs within the Punjab that, you know, possibly still even do it. I mean, the Qataris are one group, which is a caste within Sikhism. They definitely do it. And so, you know, he actually needs to learn his own history. You know,
Yeah,
because
I believe that's exactly what Brother Adnan Rashid said to him recently on his live stream, that he doesn't know his own religion, he doesn't know his own history, and yet he's out here trying to talk about hatred and division and stuff.
yeah, and you know, his main thing is, oh, they get married, they're inbreds, therefore they're gonna get genetically thing, which is, yeah, maybe there's some merit in what he's
Let me
saying
just
there.
mention something about this, the genetics stuff for you, because I was just thinking that, you see, for those people who do not know, the Sikh people or the Sikh faith, 99.99% of them are Indian, right?
Mm-hmm.
And of that, 99.99% of them are specifically Punjabi.
Mm-hmm.
So they're from one small part. So they have a small gene pool to begin with.
Right,
The Muslims, on the other hand, are 1.8 billion people.
right,
Majority of them are not Arabs. And they have a gigantic gene pool to choose from. So, like me and you, Saracen, we're
yeah,
Pakistanis, right? We
right,
can get a Chinese Muslim, right? A
yes,
white Russian Muslim,
yes,
an African Muslim. I mean, the
right.
world is our oyster in that
The
regard.
world is always so right.
But these people, all they can really choose from is an Indian, Punjabi. So their genetics are far similar on a larger scale
Yeah.
than any of ours are.
Well, this is and the other thing about genetics is, if you look at studies that are done on it, yes, there's conflicting evidence. There's also evidence that part of the reason for for defects at birth for children. It's not just the genetics. It's also to do with things like vitamin D, about what sort of nutrition that you've had. And poorer children generally tend to have more genetical, have more illness in terms of
Yeah.
genetics. If you look at, let's talk about,
Just one second, Sam. Just to
Darwin.
touch
Darwin
up on the
married
point
his
I just
cousin.
made a second ago, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I mentioned how they're Indian, how they're all Punjabi, but on top
yeah.
of that, there's a lot of casteism in Sikhism still.
Massive,
Even though they say they don't practice it and their religion
massively,
forbids it, they do practice it. So a Jat Sikh will marry a Jat Sikh.
hundred
That
percent.
makes the what's it called, the genetic diversity even less
Yes,
because of that. Even some gurdwaras, right? I believe there's one in London or somewhere, right, in the UK, and it has the caste name on the outside. And for
yes.
anyone who says they don't practice this stuff, there's solid, there's actually physical evidence of it.
Oh, no doubt. They definitely got the Khans. They, like you said, they won't marry Jats. Like, I had friends that Sikhs. The boy and the girl were dating, but they couldn't get married because of the caste issue.
I mean,
So
and not to be mean or anything right now, because I'm not really like that. But if you didn't know who Raj was,
yeah,
and someone said to you he's a product of inbreeding just by looking at
he
him,
looks like it. Doesn't he look like it?
and he's telling everyone else they're inbred, it's very ironic.
And he actually says he's autistic. So why are
That's
you even
sad.
talking about inbreeding? Like,
And you're taking
you
the piss out of disabled people whilst
well, let's
being
talk about this,
autistic.
because here's the thing: he's going around, cousin marriage. There's a whole kind of town called Shadola that's got as a result of cousin inbreeding.
I mean,
That's not actually true.
first of all, Saracen is this town is that a real name of a town?
It is. There's basically, in Pakistan there was a lot of saints, and they would go
Right,
around, and then towns were named after them. So there
right.
was apparently a saint that came, and sometimes, unfortunately, in our culture, you get mazars that come up, and people do all sorts of nonsense there, and they abuse people because a lot of it is folklore law. So apparently, this kind of Sufi saint, astaghfirullah, I actually don't believe this story, but he said you have to give me your firstborn child, or they turn into rats. So that's the legend behind it. So now you see people that look like rats. So it's nothing to do with inbreeding, or is nothing to do with kind of, if you go with the tell. If you look at what's happened there, you've got a lot of children that have been left abandoned. So I don't know. Are you aware of the Edie Foundation?
Yeah,
So
he recently passed away, didn't
Abdul
he?
Sadar, may Allah
Celebrity,
bless
yeah.
him, may Allah have mercy on
Yeah,
his
he had the
soul.
world's largest fleet of private ambulances, I believe.
Private ambulance, but this guy was so amazing. He would literally, in Pakistan, he'd go around picking up children, babies from rubbish dumps. Wallahi, there's children that were thrown in rubbish dumps
Mm-hmm.
in Pakistan, because sometimes children are born out of wedlock. There's no social services. There's no kind of welfare state there. So these guys, like, for family honor, wherever, they throw children away in the bins. And in Shadola, in places like that, you have children that are literally left, like at the mazar, or in the mosque, or on the street. And then you get criminal gangs that go there, and they literally cut these kids up, and they change their features, mess around with their skulls, because they know that they can go. I don't know if you've ever seen, what was that Hollywood film that came out with the kids? Oh, it was really famous. Gosh, that J Ho. I don't know if I
Oh,
should.
yeah, I know what film you're on about.
You know what
About
I'm
the guy who
talking
wants to
about?
be a millionaire or something.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah,
not
yeah.
a millionaire, that's it.
Slumdog Millionaire.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
in
yeah, I
there,
know exactly what you're talking about,
so
yeah.
so it talks about how children, and you get in Pakistani, unfortunately, you get criminal gangs that abuse these children,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll put them sometimes at mosques or these darbars, and in Shadola, it's known for that. So they literally kind of, they mess up these children, unfortunately, and it's disgusting. And some of them are disabled, and it's horrible. And they try to, and sometimes they make them. So you shouldn't be making fun of them for rat features. I mean, some of them obviously have genetic defects. There's absolutely no doubt about that. But they're human, And for you to go around saying, "Oh, there's a whole town of it because they got married to their cousins. It's called Shadola. You rat people." It's not funny, and you need to stop. It's absolutely wrong
It's
as a human.
absolutely disgusting,
And the
especially
worst
considering.
thing, he's got his sisters disabled, man. He should have a bit of respect.
Mm.
His sister's disabled, from what I've heard. He looks like, I don't, even with me, I don't like to cuss Raj too much. Do you know what I mean? Like, I will have a bit of banner of it because he takes it quite personally, even though he's a free speech advocate. You know, I think Muslims, have a bit of a laugh, but don't go over the top. And certainly, no one should attack him or anything like that. But it's just I find
I
that
mean, you
really
think you have
that's
more
what really pissed
sympathy
me
being
off.
autistic as he claims,
Well,
but
this is the
it's
thing, and
complete
he
opposite.
he was saying no, I don't mean it like that, but he always says it. Pakistan, I don't mean it like that. I'm talking about blasphemy laws. Should I have told him like stop it, man? And this is what really pissed me off with him. Like, you need to stop. Why are you making fun of disabled people for? Relax. You know what I mean? It's not funny. So and it's constant.
And he
It's
never
there.
gets called out for
Well,
doing
this is
such
the thing.
things.
People don't know. I've got a whole article about it. I can, and if you go on Shadola and you can type in YouTube, if those who understand Urdu, there's documentaries on this about how these kids are abused. Maybe he doesn't know. Maybe he doesn't know. Maybe he doesn't know. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But then don't be willfully ignorant. So, for example, like Udnan, Ustad Adnan, he keeps on saying I don't know, was it 150 million? Is the if people were killed under the Muslim rules? I'm sure a large portion were killed, but come on, don't exaggerate the figures, man. It's like, don't exaggerate the figures. This is the time where there wasn't even guns. And under the British law, under the British, when they had gunpowder and they had guns, they say about 30 to 60 million people killed.
I just want to quickly give a shout out to one of the commenters in the chat section called Mohammed Haroon.
Yeah, Assalamu alaikum, Muhammad.
What did he say? He said that apparently Raj's sister and his own mother are identified as disabled.
Well, that's really sad. Like, I actually, this is why, with Raj, man, I've never, because people used to take the piss out of him, even Muslims, like, and I always felt that,
No, sorry, I
as
just want to correct myself. It was his user called Ark Sacco that said that.
okay,
So
yeah.
shout
So I would say to Muslims, I would even stick up for him in the comments, and I'd get stick for it. But for me, I just think of the Prophet ﷺ, we shouldn't be too harsh with people. And with me, I always try to give people the
But you know
benefit
what,
of the
Saracen? I
doubt.
just thought maybe he says he's autistic to gain even more attention.
But
Is that a
I think he is,
possibility?
though. No, I think a lot of autistic people are very gifted, and he is incredibly gifted in his art. There's absolutely no doubt
Yeah,
about that.
his art was
And
right.
the way he talks and the way his kind of thought process is, like he's got this one song, and he's playing it over and over again. I'm not playing no jizya. Are you mad? Yeah, I'm not living under Sharia. Are you mad? Like, he's going on and on and over and over. It's like, come on, man. Like, your viewers are even like saying, stop it, man. Like, we're getting fed up of it. But for him, he needs to go over, and he repeats himself like constantly. So his
I want to
life's
ask you on your opinion on
yeah,
this.
gone.
So recently, Raj has actually come out and said he jumped off of the boat, the Tan's sinking ship, right?
Right.
But he's not a supporter of Tan anymore. My question is this: so when Tan first read his manifesto, which effed everyone,
Mm-hmm.
right? He said the N word multiple times
Mm.
and whatnot. So Raj was still a supporter of him in that week
Yes.
and following his manifesto. But then
Yes.
the following week, last Sunday,
Mm.
Tan said the N word a few more times, and then all of a
Mm.
sudden not on his ship anymore.
Right.
So that doesn't seem quite right to me. It's
Well,
like
this
saying I'm a supporter of yours as long as you're the N word 50 times, but not 100 times.
exactly that.
Makes no sense.
Exactly that. Exactly that.
I
And
think he
this
saw the backlash of what happened to Tan being run out of the park and thought maybe I need to change my ways a bit or something. I don't know. I really don't know. But
I think he's a bit of a coward inside, but he gets kind of strength from his followers and that degenerate crew that he hangs around with, and the people who support him and tell him he's a lion. even though we know he's not. Like, he calls himself a P word. Like, I'm keeping it PG here.
Yeah.
He calls himself a fat, ugly, PG, P word. That's why I'm a snitch. I report I can't do anything. I'm out. Things like that. But at the same time, this is exactly it. So in the first week, Tan, he asked him, he didn't draw the Prophet ﷺ, which is fair play to him. He didn't do that, right? But at the same time, he's still supporting Tan, and his excuse was, "I'm a complete advocate of free speech, and I want to defend his right to do it." Fine, but then you have to. But then you draw.
He's also said on multiple occasions that he's a free speech absolutist. So if
Absolutely.
you are, then one cannot go too far for you.
No, absolutely. So why are you getting offended when Saeed's making live streams about you? Just laugh it off. Grow a
No. So
thicker
my point was,
skin.
how can go too far if you're apparently a free speech
Well,
absolutist?
you can't. This is the contradiction. This is what everyone's failing to understand.
That's a giant contradiction, yeah.
Well, this is it. How did he then Tan's gone too far? Last week he was saying the week before, before Tan got run out of the park, and he was saying, "Oh no, I support Tan." I said, even though I disagree with him, I support him. I support him. And then, like, all of a sudden, oh, Tan chucked me out of Tango. I said this last week. Oh, so therefore, he said I left him. I jumped. His joke was that I got the raft and I jumped out before the Titanic sank. so, like, no one saw you get on that raft, mate. Like, you ready? So he's kind of trying to get his way out of it now. I'm sure if Tan comes back next week, he'll be walking around and trying to hang around with Tan again.
And then the funny thing is, he actually mentioned, like, he said, "Oh, I haven't spoken to Tan," and then he mentioned a date. He's literally counted every day Tan has not spoken to him, like, via phone call.
Oh, it's like, and it's sickening, isn't it? So for me, the way I see it is that he's just with anyone that doesn't like Muslims. So if it be it Tommy Robinson, be it Tan, be it Amy, if you're going to attack Islam, Raj will have your back and he'll support you. And he said on his live stream today that I make jokes about Sharia and Jizya, but I actually mean it, and I use as comedy what I actually mean. There you go. You heard it from the horse's mouth. So he's trying to get his message across through comedy. Now, where did he learn that from? Where do you think he learned that from?
Exactly.
Tan has set the trend, and a lot of people. This is why we shouldn't laugh at his jokes. And he might be a clown, he might be entertaining, but he's got a serious message that he's promoting to the world, which is that Islam is dangerous, Islam is negative, Sharia is dangerous, Sharia is gonna taking over. We're not. I mean, who's actively advocating to take over this country?
The thing is, he doesn't even know what he talks about most of the time.
He
I mean,
doesn't.
1 week he'll come and saying, "No, the Mughals killed 300 million Indians," right?
Right.
Then the week after he'll change it as 150. Then later on he'll say 75 or 80. He has zero facts, does zero research, has absolutely no idea what he's talking about.
Well, this is what annoys me, because he'll go onto the live chat, he'll go onto Speaker's Corner, and he'll get in the cameras. Every other video, he'll get in the camera somehow, and he's got nothing really to say, but he says it with such confidence. You get what I'm saying? It's like what we call confident BS. It's just he is the most confident. Like, yeah. It's like, oh, yeah, the Muslims killed 300 million. It's called the Indian genocide.
Well, yeah, they're trying to call it a Holocaust.
Holocaust, genocide.
Connotations that the Holocaust has, so it sounds even worse.
Belittling what the Holocaust was.
Exactly.
He's done zero research, to the extent a few days ago on his live stream, he was asking people to Google it and try to get him information about it so he could support it. I mean, if you're so serious and you're so strong on your points, why are you asking people to give you information? You should have done your research, put in the work. But this is the thing. I don't think Sheikh Adnan or Ustad Adnan, he's not on the level to debate with him.
Like, I know. I've actually seen. You know when Raj first came to the park, when when he used to wear his cap and have his
Yeah,
hair covered back. I've seen those videos where Adnan Rashid just completely demolished him, and all this talk about
demolished him.
Mughal history, Muslim history, and how Islam came to India. And he ignored every point, even the fact that the Muslims were fighting each other. Even when they first attacked in India, it was to attack another sultanate or Muslim sultanate, or But these
Yeah,
things go right over his
it's like a year seven student going up to a professor and constantly pestering them, you know, like,
And
and then
actually, it's
insisting you're
disgusting when he
right.
does what they do now because he's been schooled by Adnan Rashid so much. They come up with disgusting names for him.
Well, this is it, and I just find it like distasteful, and like, they obviously free speech advocates, etc. So they say, but the moment you say anything about them, I went on this show with Ustad, and I completely schooled them, completely. Like, we made them look stupid
Yeah, I've seen
to
that.
to,
Yeah.
to the extent that they had to have 5-on-1, and then they did this to Respect and Jelai as well. All
And then
five of them
they
were
also had to have an extremely biased host in Mani Cinder, which is
biased
another
hosts.
character of theirs.
Yeah, what? And they'll ask you. So the first person, let's get everyone to speak now. The first person will say 5 things. The next person will say 5 things. So now you've got 50 points to deal with, and he'll give you a minute to answer. You can't win. So there's no point on being on a panel like that. And then I said something about, I said something, the P word, to the SAS, Sikh Awareness Society, because I think they stir up hatred towards Muslims and Pakistanis generally. And I think they misconstrue facts. So just touch on that again. Sometimes Sikh girls actually fancy Pakistani boys or Bengali
Oh, yeah.
boys or
I
even
mean,
Somali boys. I've seen it.
go out
I've
with each
seen
other,
Sikh girls even
you
go
know.
out with Somali boys. I've seen it.
Exactly.
They
I mean,
can't get they
a
can't,
good friend of mine, he dated a Sikh girl for 3 years, right?
right.
And then one day he got a phone call from India because she went on holiday to India, and she said my parents are getting me engaged, and he was like, okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
So that was that. But I guarantee you, if they kept the relationship going even after she got engaged, they would have turned into a my daughter was groomed case.
This is exactly it. And like, I went to like college, and I had loads of Sikh girls on my case, loads, bro. I've dated like stuff like, I'm not gonna go back into my past, but I've dated quite a few. I never chased them; they chased me. You know what I'm saying? I was like the forbidden fruit. So if you tell your daughters, and this is, they bash our
Actually,
culture.
you made a very good point just there about the forbidden fruit. I'm not sure if it's Raspect or Jeddah that mentioned this as well, it ties into like back when how people are now, as white people, are upset about their daughters dating black men.
Yeah.
Is because they also mentioned that about their
Well, if
parents
you
are
tell
convinced
them you can't, you
not
can't,
dating
you
black
can't.
men, that they
Kids
can have what
rebel.
they want.
Kids rebel, right? You tell them you can't. So
Yeah.
these guys are the evil. Yeah, and then you see, guy. I know, you don't need to. Sometimes when you're chirping a girl, like, you'll say compliments to her. You're not grooming her. It don't matter if she's Pakistani or she's Sikh or she's African or white. It doesn't. Men say nice things to women. It's called courting in English. It's not called grooming. But these guys will make it into a grooming thing. Oh, they're
And it's
grooming the
also
girl.
for those who aren't Asian or from conservative families listening, it's also
Yeah,
to save face in the community, just to say, "Oh, my daughter was groomed.
groom.
It
Thank
wasn't that
you.
she was promiscuous and she wanted to date or have sexual relations, etc. Oh, she was groomed."
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I had a very good friend, like, who's a dentist, and he had his best friend was a proper Sardar Sikh, and we were at King's College, and these guys were studying dentistry, and so I used to hang around with them, and then he'd sit down with me, and he would sit down and say, "Look, bro, you guys are lucky because you still got, alhamdulillah, like, you're lucky, you got some good, decent Muslim girls who you can marry." He goes, "But nowadays, I'm a proper practicing Sikh, and I'm finding it so hard because all our girls seem to be interested in Bhangra, getting drunk, going out, and it's hard to find like a well man." And this is him opening his heart to me. I go, I don't know what to say. Become
Yeah,
Muslim,
I
man.
noticed that. So all those things you mentioned that this guy mentioned, these are
Yeah.
all things from their own culture. These aren't
Yes.
things someone put on them. Drinking is heavily in their culture. So is
Yeah.
Bhangra music,
What to
dancing.
traditional Sikhs, they don't drink, do they? I
Bro,
think
I've
that.
seen, bro. The amount of
No, no,
sardars out there,
yeah,
people,
yeah, of
they
course, that's
all the
part.
tons of
It's
them drink.
folklore. Like, so you got like the religious Sikhs, they're not supposed to be drinking, but they're like under their folklore, it's about Daru and Bhangra, Shankara and
The
Brua.
thing is, the Sikh Punjabi culture is so heavily into drinking.
Massively.
I don't think there's one like if you ask any Sikh, they'll have someone in the family, someone they know is alcoholic. That's how bad it is.
Yeah, it's massive, and they're quite proud of it.
Or
Like, if
even
you
the
hear the
BBC
Bhangra songs,
documentary.
it's about, like you said, like drinking and Punjab and nudging and
Actually, yeah, just
women.
to hit up on Punjab real quickly. So in Punjab, obviously they have that drinking culture. They also have a big issue with drugs as well, and not female what's it called, infanticide. That's how you pronounce it.
Yes,
So he wants to say
yes,
other countries
yeah,
are shit, assholes, this and that.
yes.
But
You
if you look
got
at Punjab,
infant,
the
infant.
Sikh hub of
Yeah,
today,
right.
that's beyond the asshole.
It's massive, and it's massive, and like our Prophet ﷺ, when he came, he aimed to put an end to that. Well, he did put an end to that
Exactly.
female intifada. It's disgusting, and that's again to do with culture. So I'll give you an example. When my daughter was born, this was like 7 years ago. We had a Punjabi Sikh maid who used to work in my mother-in-law's house. So when my wife then came home, and she goes, "Oh, what did you have?" She goes, "Daughter." She goes, "Oh, I'm so, so sorry." And she goes, and she's like, I'm like, huh? What are you on about, man? Like, I'm so happy I've got a daughter. Alhamdulillah. Like, you know what I mean? She goes, I'm so sorry. Like, she actually is like making her feel depressed about it. But because her mentality was, oh no, you've got a woman. You got to think about how you have to pay for her upbringing. You got to think about getting her married and stuff like that. Our culture is different, right? we, we
Absolutely, yeah.
we think we say that if you have three daughters, and you bring them up righteously, you're going to Jannah. And in one hadith, it's even two. So we have our mothers are like so well respected. Paradise is at the feet of your mother. So they're the greatest assets that we have. We love our mothers and we love our daughters. But for some, it's a burden. Now, if you live in a culture like that, and imagine you're a girl, and I've seen this on this one, I'm talking about this. Imagine you're a Punjabi culture, and you've been seen as a burden all your life, and you're not really. Oh gosh,
Yeah, because
we
you,
have
you
to
were
think
one
about
of the ones
we
he
have to
didn't
we have to think
bury
about your
alive.
marriage, and then you go and you meet a guy who you might fall in, and he happens to be Pakistani, and so suddenly you got groomed. Suddenly you're
Exactly,
groomed.
exactly.
Like, you know what I mean? I've seen it. I've seen this. I've been like around that scene for a long time. So, and then this is what I really get annoyed with, and these like kind of groups that go around and they differentiate themselves from Pakistanis and Muslims. They'll say things like we're Sikh when we're not Muslim, and they'll have banners like in America they went around saying we're Sikh, not Muslim, as
Mm.
if it's okay to kill and harm Muslims.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know what happened to
Say,
that
hey,
kind of.
guys, don't do it to us. Make sure you target the right people next time.
Yeah, mate, exactly, that's what it's saying, because Sikhs have been targeted, and it's wrong. But for us,
But
like,
because
as
of that,
Muslims,
those ones that were targeted, they know how it feels to be Muslim without actually being Muslim.
exactly. But generally, these guys, like the Sikh Awareness Society, they go around like in bed with Tommy Robinson. Like, literally, there's pictures there, and Sikh youth, they invite Tommy Robinson,
Mm.
and Tommy Robinson boosts them, and he tells his supporters that that these guys are different from us. Their
Yeah.
Sikhs are good. They're good,
I
hardworking
mean,
people.
they've lowered themselves so much just to get at the Muslims and the
Yeah,
Pakistanis that
right,
they've gone in bed with far right
far
racist
right.
neo-fascists.
And not all of them. I mean, some of them are pretty decent. So you got Sikhs against EDL, for example, who will
Yeah,
go
yeah,
around.
but they had to do that to differentiate themselves from
Yeah,
the Raj type of people in their
and
community.
and the problem is the Raj type of people seem to be growing. That's the problem. So this guy called Mohan Singh, who's going around doing all the rounds around the Gurdwaras, who's very well respected, who's trying to get in there with police services, who went on LBC with Katie Hopkins and talks about grooming within. I'm sure that there is some grooming going on. I'm sure that there's instances, for example, in the Midlands, I've seen it, where some Pakistanis, as gangs, degenerates, these gang members have pretended to be Sikh. But equally, I will say to them that there's also many Sikhs that pretend to be Pakistani. So I've known girls that were on single Muslims, for example, and they found out that the guy that they were talking to happened to be Sikh, pretending to be Muslim. Isn't that grooming? You know what I mean?
Just to make it categorically clear, we're not saying here that we don't believe there's a grooming issue or that it does not exist.
No,
We're just saying the level they're saying it exists at. That's
it's exaggerated. It's
exaggerated.
grossly exaggerated, and the police stats simply don't prove it. They don't. And then they'll turn around and say to you, so for example, Manny Cinder said to me the other day, you're saying that the Sikh Awareness Society are dealing with 30 cases of grooming from Pakistanis right now. Well, where's your evidence? Produce it. Where is it? Show us. I haven't seen it. You claim, and all the research that's done on this has shown that this has been exaggerated. So there's a book by, I think it's Katie Sean, who's done a fantastic she's actually looked at this in depth, and I think she comes from the Sikh community, and she's proven that this is exaggerated, and it is on the backdrop of this kind of anti-Muslim kind of vibe that they kind of live off, because it forms their identity, and I think
let's not forget
Sikhs need to be made aware of it, because there's some really decent, good Sikh people out there that are being misled by these clowns.
Yeah, exactly. And it's even difficult for them. Like I said, they go to the Gurdwara, they see these paintings, and it reinforces the hatred towards us.
Yeah. So you got in the comments, you got people asking that we're into now. Now let's be clear, we're not saying that Pakistani grooming gangs don't exist. They do exist, and they make the vast majority of grooming in the UK. 100%, we know that. But what we are saying is that this is not an Islamic or Muslim problem. Would you agree with me on that?
100%, yes.
So what we're saying is that if you look at towns, and you look at the demographics, first of all, there's a lot more Muslims across the UK than Sikhs. That's a fact. Now, if you look at towns where the lowest form of employment, low levels of employment or nighttime trade. So you look at nighttime trade, such as takeaways, taxi drivers, those are mainly Pakistanis. Then within that, you've got lots of unemployment. So in Bradford, Luton, Oldham, Manchester, Nottingham, Derby, places like that. These people form a gang. So let's break this down now. So when we say Pakistani, what we really mean is, generally speaking, it's maybe 80 to 90% Mirpuri, right? Most of the gangs, right? And my wife's from Mirpur, so I can say it. So it was I'm not being discriminated. So it's that. Then within, what does a gang mean? So what they classify as a gang is a group of people. That's really it. It's just a group of people who come together. They call it a gang. But sometimes it's linked to criminality.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. That's something we don't mention about this whole grooming.
They never mention it
because it gets used as something to earn money from the prostitution.
This is exactly the point. So, so the way it works. So if you know about drugs, what they do now, and there was a Panorama documentary on this about recent killings, and perhaps someone can come in and back me up on this. So what they do is that the gangsters, you got the proper top kingpins, they don't really get involved, but they got middlemen. They go around schools and they find the youngsters and they sell them this lifestyle. And this lifestyle is
we just hold on, Saracen. We just got to introduce our guest. Your EBTV in the house. Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Yes,
Assalamu alaikum,
brothers. Wa alaikum salam.
We're going to be talking about gangs, bro. So I'm going to finish my point. I want you to comment on this, yeah? So so if you look at like gangs, especially like in the UK and places like that, right? So you've got the middlemen that go and they target youngsters, like young boys, and they'll say like, yeah, we'll get you guns, we'll get you drugs, we'll get you cars. They sell them the lifestyle. Similarly, you've got Pakistani gangs that sell these youngsters the lifestyle. So you've got these guys are being groomed like 12, 13, and they're the send-outs. So these are the runners. So just as you've got the runners for like drugs, you've got the runners for these kind of grooming gangs who get the girls.
Mm-hmm.
Do you get what I'm saying? So these guys will go out, they're the same age or they're slightly older. They'll like show the girls, yeah, come chill with us, blah blah blah. We'll get you. Then they give them drugs, which is haram, alcohol haram, free mixing haram, and then they pass them around for
Just
sex.
one second, I just want to say something about it. So you just mentioned the drugs, alcohol, and free mixing.
Yeah.
Do you know what that sounds like to me, brother? Sounds like British culture to me. Sounds like to me they're well integrated into British culture.
Right. So this is the thing, and then
They always say that, don't they? Oh, we want
this
integration, we want you to assimilate.
this
And
is
now they have. This is what you
they're
have.
unfortunately a bit too integrated. So all of that, and they do target vulnerable girls, but it's nothing. It's not an Islamic thing. It's a gang thing. It's literally, and then unfortunately, if you look at the gangs, especially Pakistani gangs, they do run those towns like I said, Keighley, Bradford, Leeds, Manchester.
Mm-hmm.
No, I've been up and down the country. I've seen it. Like the middle kind of guys, they're running things. Birmingham, they run things in lots of parts. The other parts they don't, But generally speaking, and we make a very big part of the community up. So Oxford, for example,
And exactly, this is a big money earner for
it's
gangs.
a money earner, and they literally prostituting these girls. So they are prostituting these girls, and it's wrong. Of course, it's wrong. But the kind of conversation we have is so low life. Muslim Pakistani grooming
I mean, let's
gangs.
be real, Saracen. If you were to fart, they'd blame it on your religion right about now.
What's that?
That if you were to fart, they'd blame it on your religion.
Yeah,
That's what pisses
absolutely.
people off.
But this is
Everything a person who claims to be a Muslim does or has a Muslim name, they blame
well,
it on your
this is why I
religion.
call it culturally. I call it actually cultural racism because you're not interested in having this conversation. You're not interested in trying to understand the reasons because you just think brown people or are kind of they're low class. They've come to take over your country, and that's racism. Because the fact that you're willfully ignorant, if you're going to be willfully ignorant, even though the facts are presented to you, we're saying come and engage with us, we'll bring it on. Let's have a focal discussion. Let's discuss these things. And you lot are still going back and saying the same BS as you said the week
Yeah.
before.
I mean, repeating the same lie over and over again won't turn it into truth.
But unfortunately, it's grooming, if I can use that word, a lot of the young, naive people across the world. It really is. It's grooming because we've got a lot of hillbillies in America that believe this. We've got a lot of those sort of people here that aren't educated. Like I believe the white working class have got the lowest levels of, especially amongst men, of educational achievement. So without that, you don't really have discernment. If you don't have discernment, how are you gonna understand an argument? You're just following emotions. So you go, oh, Tommy, 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 all that rubbish. You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, just they got their
It's not-
football hooligans involved in
It's
another channel.
hooliganism. Yeah, that's what we're getting. So I can debate anyone on the gang issue. I'll
I mean,
smash them to
have you
bits.
seen how bad they look when they tackle Rajiv with these things?
Yeah, I think so. And Rajiv is quite well clued up about this, mashallah. So yeah, but the thing is, like, they don't want to engage with him properly, and they don't. There's certain people in the park that will smash you to bits. Rajiv is one of them. I'm one of them. I think Ustad Nan will probably be one of them
Yeah,
in terms
everyone
of
has
grooming.
their specialist subject or topic
You
they
know,
smash you with.
this is something I read off, like, just tell you off the top of my head, and they don't talk about Muslim girls that are being groomed by these same vile, disgusting freaks.
Exactly. And they also didn't talk about how most of the grooming is in-house.
Yes, but this is what annoys me about the Sikh Awareness Society. Talk about the grooming that goes in your gurdwaras.
Exactly.
It's mass. Like, there's so much of it. Like, I'll show you articles on it next time,
Yeah,
right?
definitely. Next time we'll do a show dedicated to
Yeah.
this with evidence and articles, not by us, not by Muslims, but by Sikh people themselves.
But Sikh people themselves, right? And you've seen some of them I've sent you, haven't you?
Exactly. Yeah.
So I've got so many of them, and this is what frustrates me. Talk about, instead of putting hatred towards the Muslim community in Pakistani, deal with your issues. like, deal with your tires and what's happening with them, and deal with, like, the abuse that goes on amongst, like, even with some of the boys that in the Gurdwaras. Like, we've got evidence for this. Why are you jumping on the bandwagon and adding, oh, it's a Muslim problem or it's a Pakistani problem? Just to differentiate yourself, man. It's wrong. EB, what are you saying?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that a lot of people are, as you know, if people are not willing to talk about the neglect aspect of these girls, then you're just not sincere. If you're only going to talk about the groomers and not talk about the actual neglect from the parents and the community, then you're not willing to have a sincere discussion. And if you are not putting time in educating parents and educating the girls, then it's like basically, not stopping it from the roots. Because even though the problem, one of the problems are the groomers themselves, you have to take into
Maybe can I just ask
consideration.
you, when you say educating the girls, can you just go into that a little further?
Educating them about the dangers that surrounds them within their societies. You can educate a child when it comes to maths and English and
Mhm.
geography, but as soon as it comes to the dangers in their community, it's like and I've said this to many people, or it's
I
like,
mean, right now, people might not like this, but you're actually giving advice to their parents, to seek parents out there to help them
no,
prevent
but
their
but
daughters being
why
abused.
is that's what the question is not being asked, because they're not sincere. They don't want to ask the question about why is there such mass neglect of
Yeah.
these girls. Why are these families breaking down so much? No one wants to ask that question because there's no agenda in it. There's no money in that. But
Mm.
there is an agenda in targeting the criminals. I'm not saying don't target the criminals, but you can't solve a problem without looking at all the aspects of that problem.
Yeah.
But obviously, the agenda is just
I
to
mean,
focus.
What I'm saying is, go after the criminals all you want. That's good. I support you. Go after all the disgusting, vile human scum which are doing these sort of acts.
Yeah.
Targeting vulnerable girls.
For,
But then
for
also
example,
try to
for
prevent these
example,
things from happening.
for yeah,
Excellent
yeah,
points.
yeah,
Excellent
yeah.
points.
But the thing is this: if I have an option, if I know there's criminals out there, and I know going after the criminals, putting a mobile phone in front of their face, what am I going to expect from that? Am I going to expect the problem to stop, or should I educate the people within the community that's affected, for them to have a tighter community and
Yeah.
make sure that
I
they're
also
looking
want to
after
tie
each
in the
other?
fact that Raj mentioned
When was the
something.
last time you heard when was the last time you heard of the Tommy Robinson Education for Girls
Yeah.
Thank
Foundation?
you. Thank you.
When did you hear of that?
Or
When
some
did you
sort of
hear of
charity
the
drive that he founded to help these girls financially.
they don't care. That is the reality. People say they care. Do you know how much drugs and alcohol abuse is going on within these white girls' families? Do you know how much abuse is taking place? But all of a sudden now the problem is Islam. It's like, how can I have 101 problems in my own home, but try and come and fix Saracen's home?
Mm.
Right.
What do you
How
think
does
the
that how does that make
biggest
sense?
point in
And this is, and can I just say,
this?
I worked in local government for like 20 years now, right? And I've worked very closely with social services, and I tell you now, they are at a stretching point. Absolutely, like the amount of referrals that are coming in for children, like young children, and they don't have the finances to cope, unfortunately, due to cutbacks and many other things. But this is the part of the other side of the coin that we never have a full discussion about. What is these? There's so many children that are born out of wedlock, or we encourage our children to be sexualized, have sex at a young age, and suddenly the social services have to deal with it because those young parents cannot look after the children. Those children then go into the system, and they're prone to be vulnerable and abused. And we're getting lots of that. But what's creating that culture? live life to the max, Pepsi Max, have fun now, don't wear a
This is the
condom,
thing.
I
you
just want
know,
to say
This is the
one
get
more
those.
thing.
thing.
How long has this grooming thing been going on for?
Maybe I just want to say one more thing regarding this subject, and then we'll move on from here back to our original topic, okay?
Mm.
Which is, like I said before, they're expected to marry into their own race and then into their own caste, right?
Yeah.
Which is very narrow. Whereas we Muslims have a wide genetic diversity to choose from. So couple that along with maybe some of their female, not all of them, maybe some of the females don't like the way the men look or who they're gonna have to eventually marry, right? Maybe they
Hmm.
don't like someone wearing a turban with uncut hair. So
Mm,
they want to choose someone, and then that gets called grooming. So
yeah,
there's also that aspect which I've seen the Sikh community do not address whatsoever.
yeah. This is the thing. Yeah, as a Sikh girl, I can imagine like they see they they're normal. They're growing up in the West. They're seeing good-looking guys now who are clean shaven or well groomed.
Yeah, we're
You
not
know,
saying, by the way, that wearing a turban and having uncut hair
no,
makes you bad. It's
no,
obviously growing up in the West,
no. We're talking about
being
the
fed by the
pressures.
media.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. We're talking about the pressures that the young Sikh girls are probably facing. So you've got that option, and the thing is, some girls are told that they have to marry a Sardar from a very young age, and then when they come across someone else that they're not allowed to, or their parents are incredibly strict. This is what happens, and you see lots of honor killings and stuff like that. That happens within that community as well. So it's not just a Muslim thing. It's hard. It's hard for them, but
But
to
the
just
thing,
simply put it down as grooming,
but the thing,
Pakistanis are grooming them. It's not fair.
yeah,
Yeah.
no. But this whole outcry about how people care about the girls and the families.
I think
Look,
we should leave the rest of this stuff to another show specifically dedicated to that, and that's when
Yeah.
we bring in the evidence as well as we talk
No, but I
about.
liked what EB said.
Mhm.
Like just generally about grooming in general. I think
Yeah,
I know you want to keep
Evie,
the
save
show.
all this info for another time.
No, no, but what do you think? I feel like
All I'm
he's
saying,
mentioned
no,
the
all I'm
other side
saying,
of the coin. I think
yeah,
he's really hit upon
you
something
have, yeah,
that we never talk about.
you have to be sincere because look, the moment we say racist to them, yeah, they say what race is Islam, right? But the moment you say why is the community not educating yourself, they say you're victim blaming. It's the
Yeah,
it's the same it's the same
it's
rhetoric.
true. It's
Right?
true.
They,
Like,
Absolutely. Yeah.
it's the same rhetoric. When we say
oh, they
you're
kill it.
racist,
You killed it. You killed it.
yeah,
It's so
no,
true.
it's the
It's
same
so,
rhetoric. When they say when we say you're racist, they say what race is Islam. When we ask questions about neglect, they say you're victim blaming.
yeah, yeah. So now it's so contrived. It's so
Yeah.
contrived, and then they say that we cut off the free speech. We cut off, like, this is it. How can we have an
Exactly.
open conversation? And so
How you
they
gonna
want free speech.
listen? How is a question victim blaming? It's a
Abs-
question.
Absolutely.
I'm asking a question. They say you're victim blaming. Okay, so now you're you can never have a conversation if you're not going to answer the question. If
Right.
this has been going on since the 1960s, there
Yes.
should be there should be more groups tackling this than
Yes.
there are mosques in Rotherham.
Yes. Yeah. No.
You know,
Absolutely.
so why? So if you cared, if you really cared about these girls, right?
Mm.
We would see foundations and organizations all over the country,
Mm.
not protest when you see a video of Tommy Robinson pop up
Mm.
somewhere.
Mm.
That's not
Mm.
how you that's not how you tackle a problem.
Mm.
You
No.
don't protesting doesn't educate anyone.
Yeah, and I think the real change is going to come from within our own community. Like, when we talk about like Pakistanis, our mosque leaders, our communities, to talk about this, to have these conversations. But let me just tell you from experience, it is incredibly difficult because one of the things, and maybe I don't know if you know this, Evie, yeah, but if you go up and down the country, a lot of mosques are controlled by what we call the biladri system, which is like a caste system. So they don't really care if the person or the counselor or whoever who on the panel is good or not. They just know he's from my family or he's from my caste. So then that person, those guys run the mosques. And they're like little, they're so hard to get through to, man. Seriously. You are not going to be able to have a conversation with them about these sensitive topics because they don't do the politics in the mosque like so many of them. You're not going to have these community groups. They won't support because they think that it makes the community look bad. And within the UK, we have, especially I'm speaking from my experience. Maybe you can tell me about the Somali community, but certainly amongst the Pakistani community, we have a culture of shame and sharm, which is basically anthropologists talk about guilt cultures and shame cultures. So in shame cultures, you have some people that won't do it because someone might see them, right? Right. In a guilt culture, you won't do it because it's wrong within itself. Now, the Prophet ﷺ came to change shame cultures to guilt cultures. So when you have hadiths about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching you all the time, this is him educating people's hearts and minds. But within the Pakistani community, we've gone back into this kind of, because they come from villages where, if you can get away with it, you can get away with it as long as no one sees it. So similarly, when you got Pakistanis now in these gangs, and we talked about gangs earlier, they're not going to be going for girls outwardly who are Pakistani because they know people who know them, right? So they're going to be going for easy targets. They know they're not going to get caught out of town, whatever. And if they can get away with it, they'll get away with it. Their parents won't be able to ask them questions because there is a communication barrier. We always say, parents need to speak to their children. How? A lot of them, they don't know how to speak to the children. There's a big generation gap within the Pakistanis, like second, third, fourth generation. It's massive. And sometimes it's willful ignorance as well, where your son's got a Ferrari outside and you live in a £20,000 house. And your son says, I just simply do business. That's all right. It's cool. As long as he must be doing well.
I'm sure if they can come up with a prevent strategy for terrorists, they can come with a prevent strategy for girls getting groomed. But anyways,
right.
Yeah.
But there's no one's interested in a prevent strategy.
No.
Yeah, Saracen, I think we've spent quite a bit of time on this whole grooming issue now.
Yeah, sure. Let's move it forward. Yeah.
Yeah, let's take it back. And so let's talk about his ejection from the park then.
So yeah, EB, you start, man. I just, I'm still like getting over it.
I just say this: it's come to the point where you just have to ignore people, man. If you want to keep your sanity, and you want to remain civil, and you want to give Islam a good light, then ignore people who can't have a civil discussion, because you just leave you leave what you're supposed to be, your mannerisms. And Speaker's Corner can be a very hostile
these types
place.
of characters, they bring the worst out in you.
You really do, do.
But that's
let me ask you a question, EB.
Best thing to do is to avoid them.
But EB, let me ask you this question. Now imagine it's Friday, it's Jummah, you're praying outside because the mosque is full, and Tan turns up, and you're in your second rak'ah, and he's shouting tango, tango, tango. Like, obviously you saw what happened on that day. What do you do with someone like that?
Brother, the best thing to do is to carry on your prayer.
Yeah, of course.
Brother, the best thing to do, because the whole agenda is to make you attack him, right? And even the person that punched Amy, I don't think he was Muslim, but people were rushing to put. People were rushing to put the people were rushing to put the word Muslim in their titles and stuff. But anyways, but the best thing to do, brother, with ignorance is to ignore it, because you really
salam.
Yeah, you really can't win against ignorance.
Yeah, I agree.
No matter how intellectual you come across, they don't want to hear it.
But here's the thing, though.
So what can you do?
The problem with this now is you get one Tan, and then you get copycats like Raj, who suddenly they get embodied, like they get more stronger after seeing idiots like that, and they try to copy the same thing, the same kind of method of trying to be funny, at the same time saying you're mad. Now you're gonna get more people. So you had Tan, then you've got Amy. And the Muslims, to some degree, I feel, have been incredibly tolerant, incredibly kind of, and we've seen this. We were speaking about this at the start of the show. We've kind of not done anything or reacted in generally maybe there are one or two things.
What more could he have done other than
he hasn't? Like, let's be honest.
On the same day.
he hasn't been beaten up properly, has he? Since in the park
He has
by anyone?
not whatsoever. Apparently, he
No.
got touched up more in France than he did here ever.
Yeah, apparently got kicked like once when he was outside the ball. But like, for the things that he's done, like on the street, let's be real talk. Yeah, he would probably get broke up if he came Wood Green, bro. He would get battered, bro. If this was the 20 years ago, he would have got like, gosh, I don't even want to say it. And if he goes to the wrong areas, he probably will. But he gets away with murder because, of course, he's a provocateur. But the problem is now we're getting a lot more of these little characters that come up. And for me, this is why I say we go to the traditional kind of protest in Britain where you throw eggs, well, not eggs, but you throw flour at people. You know, you flour them, you embarrass them, or you throw something harmless that's not without the intent of hurting anyone, but just
Right, when you say that,
protest.
I can just imagine everyone like having flower fights at Speaker's Corner.
Well, this is
Literally.
the thing. You cover your face. Some of these
Everyone's
youngsters,
clothes be
I
getting
would
ruined.
rather.
Everyone's,
I would
you got to
rather.
think everyone's camera equipment be getting ruined.
Well, this is the thing. As long as you know, maybe that's part of it. But yeah, the thing is, like, I'd rather have someone do that than hit him. Like, you know what I mean? Imagine just throwing. Like, I'd love just to see that. Like, flour
No,
all
definitely. We
over.
don't advocate for any
No,
violence at
no,
Speaker's Corner.
no. But I think is these lot
Whatever
are
happens
trying to get.
outside,
These lot.
outside when it cause trouble, it
These
stops
guys are
us.
trying to get there, right? They want this violence. They're trying to, and it's like, and it's nothing new. Even you might have
And the
heard of
Saracen, I
this.
don't think they do, because if they truly wanted violence, they know which places to go and get that from.
I think Tan's onto it, mate. I think because I've listened to
Listen, if he
quite a
wanted
few.
violence, right, he wouldn't have gone to Soho and did what he did, or Speaker's Corner.
No, but he went up to. There were some big guys there, man.
No, but I'm talking about like Soho is placed with as many cameras. I mean, you want real, you want
No,
violence,
but
good,
no. He
find
wants
it.
violence, but he wants it to be caught on
Yeah,
camera.
yeah.
Do
That's
you
what
got what
you're
I'm saying?
Yeah,
And this is not a new tactic. EB, you probably know about
he wants it to
the
be worth it.
martyrs. Well, the thing is, in Spain, right, in Andalusia, you had the martyrs of Cordoba. Yeah, they were basically Christians who are unhappy about Muslims because at that time a lot of Muslims they were like the fashionable people. Like, so you had a lot of young Christians becoming Muslim and speaking like poetically or trying to imitate Muslims and Arabic and stuff like that. So what these guys would do is on Jummah they would go into the mosques and they would openly insult the Prophet ﷺ, just like Tan does. And they'll go into Muslim crowds, and traditionally Muslims kept a very cool head. But then there was some civil unrest, and then they started getting beaten up. And the judges actually didn't know what to do with this. like the qadis, they were very lenient initially, but when it got more and more, when there was more of them that started happening, then they had to put harsher sentences on them and stuff. And they were seen as martyrs because what they were trying to do is they were weak. So this is shows that these guys are scared of the Muslims. They're weak. They're worried. They're worried that people are looking into the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're worried. They're scared. So this kind of weakness of these kind of trolls that are coming up, they're just trying to reassert something. But what they're trying to do ultimately is create race wars or religious wars with people worldwide. They're trying to make it difficult. That's why I say Tan is so dangerous because people are going to see him around the world, like in Australia, because they've got their networks in America, and there's going to be copycats. So we have to have a strategy for these people. Now, it might be flour, but I would also advocate those, and perhaps something I could do is write to the Home Office, because I cannot see how his presence in the UK is for the public good.
Exactly. Yeah.
He must be breaching his Home Office conditions. So if he's a visitor. But I don't know. I don't know his status. I've heard that he was going to leave in the next 2 weeks, but I don't know. He said on the Gin and Tonic show that he's got a plan. And people asked him, are you worried when you're going back to Malaysia? He goes, I'm not going to tell you my strategy. I have a strategy. I'm not going to share it with you.
I mean, who's even financing his stay here, etc.,
Exactly. I mean, you look at Tan's early video where, there was one Moroccan Berber brother that nearly kicked his ass. Like, Ebi, have you seen that one?
Nah.
So he came in, his little fat tan, like with his funny little head, like tourist haircut, very calm. Like he would say, "Oh, Muslims have done this in Indonesia and Malaysia," but he was willing to engage. You could have a conversation with him. First video, and then he
Mm.
started insulting Islam, and the Moroccan bros, come on, let's go outside, let's go for a walk, pal. Let's go. You want to threaten me? Come on, let's have it out. And then the brothers kept him calm. But yeah, that was his first video, and then the second one he came with a pizza, and he was offering pizza to people, and then but you still can engage with him at that point.
Saracen, you know what? It's quite interesting to note that along with the way he changed mentally in his speaker's corner career, if you could call it that, his
Yeah,
physical appearance has changed alongside that.
massively, and this is why I'm saying he's become more marketable. So he's been like someone's obviously scouted him, right, and seen that this guy can cause some damage, or he could be used as something. Now, let me give you an example. I did an Islamophobia experiment. So what I did, and some of the people still like are going on about this, yeah, is a couple of years ago when I started my YouTube channel, I wanted to know how quick I could grow as an Islamophobe. So I made Tawbah and I said, "Ya Allah, forgive me," yeah. But I looked at the 12 reasons why people leave Islam or have issues with Islam. So it was about age of Aisha, it was about slavery, it was about. So I covered my face and I did a video, and in this video I asked those questions in a very provocative way. Now, within 3 days, I got 19,000 hits, 19. On my
Wow.
Facebook, I started getting invited to secret groups. So from America, I was contacted. "Hey, brother, how you doing? Blah blah blah. Would love to talk to you. Are you interested on this? So here's a contact this group." These are like secret groups that you don't even know on Facebook, right? And they'll say, "Yeah, come," or some of them were Christian groups, and they say, "Hey, come and get in touch with us." So there's networks out there that are looking for people. Now, they didn't know I was Muslim, and they didn't know it was an Islamophobic experiment that I was doing, right? So, after I felt so bad doing it, yeah. And then my parents had to sit down and go, "Oh, what are you doing? Astaghfirullah, this is really bad." I go, "Look, wallahi, I've never left the deen, but I wanted to do this experiment to find out." So I stopped my video, and then I told them all these groups kind of disappeared. No, like they didn't want to get in contact with me. It was incredible. But I'm just saying, if that happened to me, now imagine Tan. Imagine who's contacted Tan, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
He's got
I
his
mean,
changed
he even
haircut.
spoke to Tommy Robinson in person in France. So
Exactly. Tommy Robinson went out to meet him. And Tommy Robinson is connected to all the networks in Israel, in Germany, in Holland, in Australia. Tommy Robinson doesn't write books. Someone writes the books for him. We all know that. We're not stupid. Do you know what I mean? So there's the thing. So Tan has been scouted. Like, people get scouted. He's good. They've made him marketable with his haircut. They've told him to be kind of this funny kind of guy. He reads out speeches. I mean, EB, am I exaggerating this, or what's your thoughts?
No, I think it's spot on. Being an Islamophobe is big business now.
Massive.
Like
Massive.
you
I'm
don't
just
need
gonna say
an
for
you
the
don't need an
viewers out there, I'm just gonna share my screen so you can see the evolution in Tan's appearance from what he once was when he
But
first came to the party.
even his
When he is
physical
now.
appearance, even like he was chubby. He was like this short, chubby
I'm gonna
guy.
share that now for everyone to see.
Yeah, I think he's just trying to start this thunderstorm. This whole he's trying to work people's hate basically.
So on the
He's trying
left
to
here on my
increase.
screen, if you can see, guys, this Tan from around
Yes.
8 months ago.
Yes.
You can see he's come with his even his hair was even more.
His hair was right.
was-
His clothing, his
yeah.
physique. He's. But the thing is, how do you? This guy can barely speak. Well, he's probably speak decent English. He says he comes from the corporate sector. So in a few of his interviews, he said he came from the corporate sector. You don't get into the corporate sector easily in Malaysia. He's obviously a bright guy. He knows what he's come with an agenda. Since he's been here, he went on the Big Questions first, which is a BBC show on Sunday mornings, and he tried to stir up hate on the Rohingya issue, and they didn't let.
That was absolutely disgusting.
Yeah.
He supports the genocide against the Rohingya. And
Yes.
just recently he was asked about that as well, I think, by one of the brothers. And then when he was asked, so what do you think of the issue there? Because he took a morality, and then he said, "I don't believe in morals."
Yeah, he doesn't. He literally doesn't. You can see he actually has no morals. Like
In fact, he's
the
like
worst.
justifying the violence.
Well, this
It's
the thing. The
disgusting.
thing is, he's got a lot of charisma. Let's be honest. He's got charisma, and he's funny, which is why he's so dangerous. He's so dangerous because so many people want to like follow him.
And Saracen,
So
isn't it almost like on the left side here of turn, you got a normal regular guy, right?
yeah.
And on the right side, you got like a football hooligan version of what he once was.
Well, the thing is, he's obviously got an inflated ego now, but he's playing a character. And I think even Sarah said, he goes, I know, because I used to be an actor. He goes, I know when someone's playing a character. And Tan's playing a character. So you look on, like he said, on the left, you can have on the first Tan, you can
Hey,
have a
we never know.
conversation.
Maybe Sarah was just playing himself in some of the shots.
maybe. Yeah, but yeah, first conversation you can have a conversation. The new Tan, he's not. He's just about shouting. You know, and he's all about, oh, why are you hitting women? Why are you hitting women? You know, like
Mhm.
and who are you playing up to? Why are you shouting that so loud so people can hear? Because he needs a camera there. It's not by chance that you've got. So if you've seen the Amy video, it's not just him and Amy. There's another guy that's come with Amy in the blue. So when she did get punched, he's a short guy. He comes rushing to her aid. Tanner's been trying to support Anne Marie Waters recently. You know,
Yeah,
Britain
yeah.
president. Yeah.
Is
So
she
I
the
mean,
head of that party? What's the party called?
she is. I think it's
For Britain, I think,
for
right?
Britain. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is, whatever's happened, he's got the message for Britain out there.
Mm,
Do you get what I'm saying? And there you go. Who funds that? How did she start a party? The message is out
mm.
by him simply wearing that T-shirt with all that sensationalism, and we're all talking. Everyone's clicking that video. That's 100,000 people have seen that. Like possibly, I'm just exaggerating now, but you know, possibly like if that went to plan, maybe it didn't go to plan. But let's say he was attacked that day, everyone would have seen that T-shirt, right? So you've got this people, his website, the Prophet Tan, and they're very good graphics. I can't imagine him being able to do all of these things. He's got
Saracen, I don't know if you could see my screen, but sorry, yeah. I don't know if you
go
can
for,
see my screen,
yeah, go for it.
but even in the physical appearance in his face, it's like as if it's taking a toll on him. From the left
Yeah,
here, when he's
yeah,
first come, he looks
yeah,
calm and collected. He's having a normal conversation.
right.
And on the right, it's almost like his character's got to him. It's taken so much toll on.
Characters got to, but I don't. I think he's got more built. On the left, he's a bit chubby.
And
On the
he's lost a
right,
bit of weight, but what I mean is
no,
like
no, yeah,
he
go
looks
on.
stressed out. He's like, you know what I mean?
He looks zoned out, mate. He's zoned out because he's playing a character. That's what he's doing. He knows when you're coming in and saying it's a good day to die, it's a good day to die, and then you say the N word like
Let's just
22 times.
let's just imagine a Muslim said that it's a good day to die.
Oh, exactly. It's
No.
just they get away with all sorts of nonsense under the guise of freedom of speech. It's
And
incredible.
also because they aren't Muslim as
Well,
well.
this is the thing. He's openly said racist things. Now, how are the police allowing him to get back in? I can't comprehend it. Like he's so racist. Like it's actually to the point that his presence is going to cause a problem, and you've allowed it with Raj today. Perhaps the police don't know this, but there was a Pakistani guy that came, and did you see that when he
Oh yeah,
challenged?
he had a white jumper on or something.
He's
Right?
a white jumper. He came. I thought big respect to that guy, man. Like
Raj is like a
Raj
church
shit
mouse in
himself.
front of
Raj
that
shit
guy.
himself. He pop up. The guy was big, right? And he's saying to the officers, perhaps his approach was wrong. He was angry. He was obviously very impassioned. He was angry, but he's saying to the officers, "This guy has been abusing my country. He's being rude. Like, no, fine, you can do that." But what he should have said is that he's been racist, and I felt alarmed and distressed. And they have to investigate that. The police have to. But rather than taking Raj out, which is, had he articulated himself properly, they took him out, which is wrong. So this is where I say to the brothers, learn the law, know that the law is on our side. It's not on their side, it's on our side. If someone's being racist to you or being Islamophobic to you, and you can prove that, and you've got clips, or save it.
Mm. I
and
just
take
screen
that
sharing
to
right
the
now the
police.
video of the
Yeah, yeah,
Pakistani
sure.
gentleman we're talking about. So
Yeah,
people,
maybe show it for a bit.
yeah. I have no audio at the moment, but
Okay.
after we talk, they can see.
So like I mean, he's being quiet. This guy, like, he's obviously very offended. He's watched large live streams where he's, he's not qualifying his statement. He's absolutely taking the mick out of Pakistan. He's calling it a third world, disgusting. It's because he's a Khalistani,
I mean,
and he
yeah, I
says,
mean, but this guy
yeah,
came down obviously, because he's
he's
seen some of the footage on his live stream. He's seen his racism, his bigotry and hatred towards disabled people. And he's had to call him out on it.
he's called him out, and unfortunately, you know, these kind of disgusting Islamophobes will twist it on this guy. You know, he didn't actually do anything. Let's be honest, he didn't. You know, this guy could have done Raj some serious damage if he
Yeah, he
really
didn't
wanted
touch him
to.
at all. No.
He didn't touch him at all.
But
But
Raj clearly felt some kind of
but
way
at the
and
same
threatened,
time,
so he took the
Raj
police.
somehow got him out of the park, and Raj stayed for another 5 hours, which is what's wrong with the policing there. You know, and this is the thing, that we have to have representatives that are able to speak to the police. I don't care if people call it a snitch. I'd rather people speak to the police and cooperate with the police and get our kind of views, and whoever the authorities are across. So disgusting hate preachers like this who come across, and our young people don't get put in jail or in prison, because they are going to react. And we know a portion of them may come down and get themselves in trouble, unfortunately. We don't want that. So, you know, you can't hide behind a freedom of speech when you're saying racist things. You can't. It's illegal, you know. And I think we need to articulate that somehow, because, you know, it's just, otherwise it's just going to go down the pan. What do you think? Are you there?
EB, you heard?
AB's gone.
Oh, is he? I didn't realize.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're spot on about that. I mean, they're trying to take the limit of freedom of speech to such an extent that the police are going to eventually have to get involved, and Speaker's Corner might not be the same.
Well,
It's
this
still
is the thing.
harassment.
But why had the police listened to this guy? Maybe if he had said that Raj has been racist and I want him to be remanded, or I want to make an allegation, and, you know, he should have taken him to the police station. That's what should have happened. He should have gone to the police station and answered those questions. Why have you said? And it might be that Raj has said it, and it can qualify what he's saying. But certainly that needs some sort of investigation. Why is Tan being allowed to return to the park next week? I can't comprehend it. He said such vile, openly racist things, openly racist, you know. And this what will happen is young people, rightly so, will get angry, and they will feel a sense of frustration. And rather than the police listening to them, they're almost talking down to them and saying, "No, it's freedom of speech." Yeah. You know, it's a complete mess. And then if something goes wrong, we'll get the blame. I
Yeah,
just think
but they,
it's,
they, they, they want the freedom to antagonize you and push you over the edge. And when someone does unfortunately get pushed over the edge and do something
why should
physical,
we have to wait for
they
that
then
long?
want the satisfaction of watching you get taken by
Right?
the police.
Yeah. No, why should we have to wait for that long? So, according to Omar, today he said that Tan is apparently coming back next week. I don't know whether it's true or not. But why is Tan allowed to even go? There should be some sort of injunction against him or something. But then, PC Steve said last week no one reported Tan. They never got one single report, because we've got a culture within our community that says, "Oh no, you don't snitch." Well, it's not snitching. It's called using your legal rights to prevent your Muslim brothers and sisters getting in trouble. And the law's on our side.
Hmm.
The law's on our side, and I believe in using the law rather than. I mean, the thing is, if you're not going to do that, if you are going to punch him up, I haven't seen him getting punched up. I'm not advocating of course not, but I'm just saying, like, you can't just stand there and let him get away with it week after week after week. Either you mans don't want to use the law. What are you doing about it? You're not doing anything. So it's ridiculous. I would say do it the right way. Let's not give our community, our religion, a bad name. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about justice, talks about law, talks about this and following authority. and we'll use the right means, and let's get rid of these Islamophobes. Or if you are going to protest, like I said, protest without causing anyone damage, but there are means that you can protest and make the other person look stupid, and this is called a softer method, and it's a traditional protest within Britain. Or you can heckle if you really don't want to throw anything like flour
I
or
mean, for
anything. Just
anyone with two,
heckle the person. There was
yeah,
a
anyone
brother.
for anyone with two brain cells, you can clearly see every time these people, these racists, neo-fascists, have been challenged to, with intellect, they've always struggled.
Yeah, well, Uncle Jamal, the guy, oh, you donkey,
Yeah, yeah.
you khabis. I went up to, I couldn't, I said, bro, man, like, why are you going? He pulled me aside. He goes, look, I actually don't know what to say to people, but they're making fun of our religion. So this is the way I just do. I just put them off their flow. I thought, you're a genius, mate. Carry on.
Yeah, but
But
he's one of the professional hecklers at the park
he's
there,
a
so get the
professional
pass.
heckler. But that's the spirit of Speaker's Corner, right?
It's a
That's
friendly way
just
of doing stuff.
Well, this is the thing. Like, so Tan is someone that needs an audience, and he wants to get into his flow. Now, imagine someone stood next to him and just repeated or just heckled every time he said something. He can't get his message across. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's part of the technique of just not allowing someone via a peaceful means. So I just feel like I think another good way of preventing someone from spewing their hateful content and their nonsense, but doing it legally. I mean, Steve from their side does it quite well.
Yeah, yeah, you're right.
Like,
Yeah, yeah. Steve
you know,
shouts over people.
Steve shouts over people, puts people off, makes some of his remarks are funny, man. Like, you gotta say, the guy is witty. You know what I'm saying? Fair play to him. Like, he's a bit of an idiot at times, but he makes like bum jokes and stuff like that, and everyone starts laughing. So you can't take the speech seriously. So we need to have people who are able to do that rather than just get triggered and angry and just because these guys are looking for it to trigger people, especially our Muslim brothers and sisters, so they can just put it on their media networks and radicalize other people across the world. That's what they want to do. Muslims are a problem. They want Sharia law. They're taking over Speaker's Corner. Look at them. Look at these bloody immigrants. This isn't Britain anymore. All of that
Mind you,
nonsense.
Steve is a large proponent of all those things. I mean, he
Unfortunately,
seems alright, but when it comes to Islam, he's just a straight grade A bigot.
I think there's quite a few of them, and I think unfortunately they support each other. That's the
Mm.
problem. I really do, and I feel like they look down upon us because it's like the white man's burden where they come to bring civilization to people. This is a kind of a cultural kind. This is what I'm saying. It's like cultural racism. You don't want to hear our side of the view, or you pick on someone that's really like doesn't have much knowledge of Islam, and you'll ask them questions, and then perhaps they're not the most educated and you are. Like if you've got like a
And then you
PhD
trap them somehow or
and
something.
you trap them, you've got a PhD in physics, and you're speaking to someone that probably hasn't even passed their GCSE science. You're saying, "Well, why is science wrong then?" Like questions like that. Why? Don't go. And the Muslims do it as well. Let's be honest. Muslims do it. They go up and ask people questions as well. But I'm just saying, like, and then you feel culturally superior to those people, and you think, look at these savages. There's a whole load. You don't. Our best scholars don't go Speaker's Corner. Let's be frank. Our biggest intellects, like, you won't find them at Speaker's Corner.
Mm.
So it's a shame, but this is why, like, our more educated people, like the Adnan.
It was always good to have a contingent of your people there still.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I've tried to get some of our best, but I just think it's such a nasty place and such a messy place, and it's got bad
I mean,
reputation.
on that point, I'd like to say I would absolutely love for Sikh scholars or the priests to go down there and actually talk theology for once,
Right?
and not about someone else's faith and how much you hate them.
Yes,
Because
exactly.
from what I've seen, Saracen, there's almost every single Sikh there, right? All they've talked about is how to hate on someone else's faith or talked about Sharia or this. Never talk about their own theology. And
No.
my question is, why not?
Yeah.
What are they so afraid of?
Yeah. Bring it. Let's have it. The only one, like you said, was it
The
Garage?
garage thing, yeah.
Jagaraj. The guy was Oxford educated. He did something in
Yeah, I believe he had
philosophy.
a philosophy degree from
Philosophy, but he
Oxford.
was a smart guy, man. Fair play
Yeah.
to him. The guy, you could have a discussion with him
I mean,
in
like I said,
terms of
he was the best Sikh Barjan, if that's how you
he's the
pronounce it.
best one I've seen ever. Like
But
I'm not exaggerating.
not to sound mean or anything, but even at his level was extremely basic.
Yeah,
His level of his own dawah. Like
yeah,
I once heard him say to an atheist, trying to convince the atheist of God's existence. Oh, look at the trees around you.
yeah, yeah.
Things like so. I really would like a, a religious Sikh who's also an
Well,
intellectual to come and express
it's
their
a shame,
point.
like Hamza. Is it Hamza Sortis?
Yeah, Hamza
People,
Sorti.
it's a shame like people like that don't come anymore.
Yeah, I mean they're put
It
off because of the park's
they
atmosphere.
put it. It's a shame that Sabur and people.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh my god, Sabu is amazing.
Sabur's brilliant. Like he's what I like about them is they've learned their field. Like they've sat there and they've learned their field. And
It's
you
like
talk
when you
about
say like welcome
evolution.
back.
You can't bullshit. You can't bullshit them on evolution. Even though I might, it might not be correct, but he certainly will ask some really potent questions. And for example, when he was debating with Rob, I don't know if you saw that. Rob is someone that's culturally, Muslims don't understand this, blah,
Oh,
Muslims
you know
don't.
what? The thing I don't like about Rob is I don't know if he means to do this, but he comes off as very arrogant and condescending.
Patronizing.
I
Yeah,
don't know if it's his South African accent or
I
what.
don't know. Yeah, I think Rob is a bit. I think he's a bright man. I think he asks some good questions, but I think he's set in his ways. He thinks that Islam is a backward religion, and I think that could be due to he used to believe in the apartheid. He mentioned it before.
He actually used to
Yeah,
believe in it.
yeah, he believed in
Wow.
that, and he grew up like that, and he worked in law enforcement. So he's grown up like that. So he's obviously seen like,
Oh, but
if
I
you
wouldn't
with
like
that
to know what he
mentality,
actually
with
done to,
the mentality is
people of
still
his
there, right?
country.
The mentality is that that so we've these brown people, we've given them rights now.
Mhm.
Oh, and the religion is still there, but what a stupid religion! Look, it says this. What does this? He doesn't. He'll read all the literature from Dawkins, Sam Harris, but very few times will he. If you suggest a book to him, about like from some of our good great scholars, he'll just laugh at them. you know he doesn't know about like some of our great intellect. He won't look into those. He won't look at the
Mm.
academia. He'll choose a position that supports his
It's
view.
like once they've chose a team or a side, in this case atheism, they would just ride and die for it.
Yeah, this is why I say it's cultural arrogance. It's like a cultural racism. You use the same arguments. So these savages, barbarians. You look at this medieval book. This is the language of that. The religion of peace. I mean, the Muslims never even came out with that quote. By the way,
Exactly.
religion of peace. This was actually coined by, I believe it
Yeah,
was.
we aren't pacifists, so
Yeah, well, yeah, but no, but it's not even that. It wasn't coined by a Muslim, the
mm,
religion of peace. It was made famous by Christopher Hitchens, who's one of their staunch atheists who's passed away now.
mm,
He kept on saying religion of peace because he was witty, and since then everyone's using it. This is how they try to do to bash our country more like religion of peace is ha 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 ha.
yeah.
We haven't. Why are you setting us up with something that we don't even say ourselves? Islam is a religion, right? It can be interpreted in a good way if you're a good person, and sometimes if you're a bad person like ISIS and their interpretations can be religion that's negative. But this is interpretation at the heart of Islam. It's a process of peace. When you do that salah and your head is bowed down and you've got that spirituality, you feel peace. The greatest time I felt peace is when there's a few occasions, but generally when I was in Mecca and I was sat in front of the Kaaba. I can never describe that feeling I've ever had in my life. It was
Mm.
incredible.
People often say that they have the most peaceful night's sleep there.
Yeah.
Let's also quickly say that although Hamza Sorties and Sabul Ahmed didn't come to the park that often or not at all anymore, they are still doing some great work with their IRA Foundation,
Yeah, brilliant.
doing dawah around the world with that.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. We need to
For
up our
anyone
game.
listening, just hit up IRA on YouTube.
Yeah, I just feel like, and they're good. but they're even them. Like I'm saying, like compared to some of the scholars we've had in our past, they're like nothing. Like you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that with all due respect, they'll say this themselves. You know, they're like students compared to some of the giant scholars we've had in our past in terms of intellect. And this is why we have to raise our trajectory. What I loved about Hamza Sortis, yeah, is like, you know, he's really looked into atheism. Like, you know, he's been reading about it, you know, he's been studying about it, and he can
Mm.
hold his own.
Mm.
And, you know, people who, you know, because usually you get Muslims
On
and
that point,
atheists.
Saracen, I just want to plug in his latest book as well, which is on Amazon called The Divine Reality.
Yeah, I've got it, man.
It's one of the bestsellers on Amazon. So check that out
It's
if
a
people.
great book. And it's accessible. But then the problem is, and here's a question for you, is that can everyone read that book? Like, let's be real, let's be honest. From our community, is that a book that's too hard to read for some people? EB, what do
Um,
you think?
I think it's too hard to read for some English people as well.
Exactly.
Let alone,
Exactly. Yeah, you're right. It's
I
very.
think Tommy Robinson would find it hard to read that book.
I think Tom Robinson will find
that's
it, and
true, but
this.
then maybe the people who want to read it are more learned in the first place.
But this is where we need to up our standards. We need to get our children young and teach them how to read a book. This is what opened my heart up and opened my mind up to so many things. For years, I didn't know. I wasn't very confident at reading. Didn't know a lot. I didn't know. I was just like, yeah, bruv, like, yeah, God, you know, all that kind of chat. I was like that for many. And then I started learning about law. I passed my law. I kind of went through with half a brain, qualified in law. Didn't really fully. And then I came across an amazing lecture by Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, How to Read a Book. It changed my life, literally changed my life, because I started. It's a 2 hour lecture. It's over two periods, but he goes through a classic book on how to read, and it gives you really good tips on the sort of how to engage with a book, how to have a dictionary present, or now you can just use your phone when you're not sure about words. And the more you read, the more you read, the more your mind opens up. You know, and this is what we need. Really, we really need more of that, bro. We need to get our youngsters reading. We need to get them to
Yeah, but
learn
now
about.
we're living in an age where we're consumed by social media,
Yeah,
and that's the biggest problem.
bro. They'd rather play
So
FIFA, innit? They'd rather play Black Ops.
yeah, but that's what we're facing now.
Yeah.
That's what we're facing, and I think, like when I was going back to talking about how, you know, if people have a problem in their community, they should be focusing on their own community
Hmm.
as much as we have other people focused on us, right? As Muslims, we still need to preserve some time and energy on our own people as Muslims
Mm,
and tackle these issues within our own communities.
mm,
Because I think what's happening is people from different backgrounds are going at each other, but forgetting the people that matter in their own communities, i.e., children and women. So,
mm.
we can go back and forth, but at the end of the day, we need to go back to our children and our women and start from home, start from the community. And
Yeah.
there's many issues. Like
I agree with that.
sometimes, like, yeah, I mean, sometimes I wonder.
Maybe that's why Raj is the way he is. He never got that from his family.
Yeah, I don't know, but the thing is this, like, yes, I mean, it's good to tackle these issues coming from the far right, but it shouldn't divert us from focusing on our own communities and making sure that we're strengthening.
See, I know, like, I think we've spoken. Like, do you still live in South Tottenham, bro?
I live in near Tottenham, not too far from Tottenham.
Yeah. So basically, like in Edmonton now, yeah, big Somali community, right? I, there's a divide. You're getting some Somalis that are doing so well, bro. Like, mashallah, alhamdulillah. You know, with the extra tuition and stuff, they're smashing the exams. And then you got another like that is completely left behind,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah,
You know, but I'm hoping that those are the best of those. Like, the best are going to be the leaders. You know, I want them to have a connection with the dean because I'm going to just tell you how I feel. I feel now like if I had to go to Speaker's Corner, right, I got to know about all the different groups within Islam, like not all of them, but to some basic level, you got to know about what people come from. You got to know about Christianity because we're being attacked by Christians. You got to know about atheism because we've been being attacked by atheism. You know, and then you got to know how to learn how to articulate yourself. You got to know how to debate. You got to know how to pick out arguments. Muslims are under such, as a young person, it's so difficult for young people because they gotta have to know about so much different areas.
Yeah.
When someone attacks you, you're gonna have to have an answer. Well, what about where's the rebuttal to that? It's so hard, man. Like literally, I study like 4 to 6 hours a day, and I still find like I need more time. Like my wife gets pissed off. She's like, why are you always or either why are you always reading? Why are you always listening to something or like lecture? This is it. We have to up our game, man.
Yeah, but I
Yeah, I
think
would definitely recommend these brothers that that either can't control their emotions, aren't good at speaking, or don't have that much knowledge to refrain from getting in front of the camera at Speaker's Corner.
I agree,
It
man.
is definitely a bad look.
Yeah, but this is the thing. I tell you, who gave me hope? Malcolm X. Like like people like Malcolm X. Like
Mm.
because look what he came from. But we should never accept. Allah, if Allah can open your heart and open your mind up, you can do the most incredible things. Yeah, have faith, have taqwa, and believe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will open your heart and have goals. Like so with me, I have a goal of how much books I have to read in a month. I have a goal of how much books what I need to learn, and then I look for the gaps in my knowledge. What do I know about? How do I fix that? And then I have to look at like what Extremely Balanced one said to me in the park. He goes, work on your manners, bro, because
Yeah.
I can be the biggest things. I can say whatever, but if I come across and I'm rude, and I am like that sometimes, and I'm really grateful for people like EB reminding me, and I have to think, gosh, it's true. How am I coming across as well?
yeah.
Because the actions speak louder than words.
Yeah,
I remember
definitely.
the first time. I remember the first time I went to Speaker's Corner. After watching it on YouTube, and I thought, "Oh, that's easy. Just go there, just debate, and it's all fun and games." But then when I went there, I had a debate with a few people, and I actually realized that it's not as easy as you think. I mean, it's very easy to lose your mind there. It's very easy
Yes.
to get angry, and I thought, you know what? Sometimes some things are not for you.
Yeah.
Like, I might have a point, right? I might make sense, but I'm not a good debater. I might be a person that makes a lot of sense, but that doesn't mean that makes me a good debater just because I make a lot of sense.
Mm.
So I had to self-reflect and say, you know what, this until I can sort of make sure that I can gather myself while debating and
Mm.
not get too emotional, because
Mm.
people are not going to focus on what you're saying. They're going to
No.
focus on your emotions.
Yeah,
and
it's true.
so you're going to actually do more damage than good.
It's true. And I would say to people, if you do want to do it, obviously work on like if you are a good public speaker, if you are well articulate, focus on one or two areas and just go for those areas. Like don't branch. You don't necessarily need to learn about Christianity. You can just if you that's what you want to learn about
Yeah, for
Christianity.
example, Saracen, like I'm sure you can think of many of the Dawa guys in the park, and you could
Yeah.
say this is their speciality. For example, Sabur's is atheism.
Mm.
Then you think of some like Mansoor and Hashim.
Mm. Mm.
They aim their Dawa towards Christianity.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
And then you
Exactly.
have brothers like
Mhm.
Muhammad Hijab, which is like an all-rounder. He can have a civil.
And
He can make
also one thing for maybe atheists or people who don't believe in a god, we have to understand that they don't have to be sincere to anything.
No.
So
That's a good point, bro.
yeah, so don't, as Muslims, don't fall into the same trap of intending, going to Speaker's Corner with the intention of exposing someone. That's not
Mm.
da'wah.
Mm.
Your intention should be going there to call to Allah for the sake of
and
Allah.
presenting
Yeah.
your case in the
You know,
best
that's why
way you
that's
can.
why a Muslim can never have an agenda, because our intention is
Yes.
not for the agenda. Our
Yes.
intention is for Allah. If your intention is
Allah.
guided towards your agenda, then who are you? Are you doing it for your agenda? Are you doing it for your fame, for your views? You
Evie,
know?
this is what I used to get and this is why I limit myself as well when I go to the park as well, because I felt there's so many egomaniacs, bro. Obviously, we're not going to name names, but
Yeah,
there's
of
people who
course.
just love getting in front of the camera, and they don't understand the way they're coming across, and like
Yeah.
what they're doing is going to cause so much divisions in the future, or they'll just say,
I think
and there's some
they
that
all
just
need
want to be
to
heroes.
self-reflect and see, are they doing more damage than good?
But
Yeah.
I heard, I don't want to misquote the hadith, but I believe there's a hadith that says the last thing to leave the believer's heart is love of leadership.
Mm.
And it's wallahi, bro. I see it all the time. There's people who can't even speak English properly, and they're debating, like and they've got no understanding of the culture of the person, where people are coming. English people, for example, in this country have got a very kind of culture, a way of banter, that you have to kind of be aware of. You have to know about subcultures within that before you address people. It's easy to be aggressive and be angry at people and try to win. I can win on many arguments, but what about the long term? What about the long term? What about how you've come across and the effects that how many people have you put off Islam? This
Mm.
is
Yeah.
extremely, you know that, right? How
Yeah,
many
yeah,
people have
yeah.
these guys
No,
put
but
off Islam
that's what I'm saying. The environment of Speaker's Corner is so hostile that
Yeah,
you can easily get caught up
easily.
That's what I said
and
earlier.
we've
Brings
all
the
been there.
worst out
We've
in
all,
people.
we've
All
all
been
been
there.
there. We've all been there where we've, gone there with the intention of, staying calm or whatever. But then, as human beings,
Mm,
you do get emotional.
it's charged.
But that's the thing, with da'wah, you have to be prepared to always face people who are going to say something to trigger you.
Mm,
And the best da'wah is always staying calm. And
But
yeah.
even with
one
that
of the
said, EB, I still have to give them credit for, because even in the environment, even with the Islamophobia industry and everything that the Muslims face, they still, mashallah, get shahadas, is to get new Muslims coming.
uh,
Our brother Hamza, um, how many English people does he, get to convert to Islam, even under
yeah.
all these pressures?
And I think a brother who's a good example is Shabir Yusuf.
Yeah.
No matter what people say to him, he's always
Mm,
smiling. And
mm. He's
and
got
if
he's got maturity, hasn't he? Got a beautiful kind of
yeah,
maturity about him.
yeah. I mean, if
Uh,
he sees that the conversation is not heading anywhere, he just says, nice speaking to you, and that's it. I mean,
yeah.
there's nothing
Yeah,
more you can say. But
And the thing is, the problem is, and this is what I find, that when people watch it back, if you're too polite, or if you're too like you've got good manners, you let the other person speak, which is the way the Prophet ﷺ used to be, by the way. Let them finish, then come in. You're seen as weak. You're seen like, oh, bro, he schooled you. You lost the debate. This is sometimes like, for me, example, I'll give you example. There's times where I haven't gone to win a debate. I've gone there to win hearts, and and I know I'm not looking to even refute the other person sometimes. But these are strategies that people don't always see, but on oh, bro, the brother's got no knowledge. Akhi, he doesn't know anything. He didn't say anything. He didn't. I don't need to attack Christianity to make my faith stronger. I just have to articulate what I believe and the reasons why I believe it. And as long as they're strong, alhamdulillah, let other people judge and be well mannered. But
yeah,
then there's other times where someone's being so aggressive and so rude to you and just completely, then you have to put your foot down. But it's a thin line. But then there's people who I find, EB, that go to speakers corner, who just go there with intent to argue with someone, and I'm going to win the debate. I'm going to steamroll over them, and I'm not going to let them speak. And I just feel that's wrong.
yeah. No, that's that. But that's the thing. I mean, at the end of the day, your actions will be judged by your intention. And if you're going to go to speaker's corner with the intention of just, mocking people, or debating people just for the sake of making them look stupid,
Mm,
then I mean, what are it's a waste of time. It's just a
yeah.
waste of time,
Mm,
and I don't
yeah,
think we should
people
only
definitely
limit
need
our
to start leaving their egos at the door.
yeah. No, I don't think we should also limit our da'wah just to speaker's corner.
Oh
right.
yeah, no,
Go to
that's what I
go
said
to
earlier.
your town centers, go
Like,
to your your
you,
local.
like brother Shamsi, he's out there on the roads, and then you have,
Exactly.
like I said earlier, Hamza and then Sabu, they're doing their thing.
Exactly.
I mean, many people do
But
other
Speaker's
things.
Corner is going down the hill anyway, man.
Mhm.
I can't see myself going there anytime soon, man.
It's always is such a negative vibe around it at the moment. It's been like that for a little while now, but it seems to be getting worse because you know what it is, EB. It's become so big worldwide. Like I'll be honest with you, I live in the Midlands, right? So if I go to Birmingham or I go Derby or if I go to Nottingham, bro, people stop me on the street and I'm not even in that many videos. Like you know what I'm saying? Like people stop me. Like either they love me or they hate me. Like, oh, Assalamu alaikum, bro, you're amazing. Generally, a lot of them more are Sufis up here, so they tend to love me, alhamdulillah. But yeah, there's a few like, oh, bro, man, what are you doing? Oh, can I ask you a question? Why did you debate Ali Dawah? I'm like, wow, like, how do you guys even remember? Yesterday, yeah, wallahi, bro, I was on the train the other day, like, no, train, the tram, like in Nottingham. And this Hindu guy comes up to me and he goes, oh, bro, are you from Speaker's Corner? I go, yeah. He goes, "Oh my God, what are you doing?" Like, I'm like, we had the conversation. So he was asking me questions about speakers. But yeah, this is what happens. People start knowing you,
Yeah,
and I'm thinking I'm not even that regular, right? And people know me. Now imagine I was a regular. It's having an impact on people. People are watching this all over, even if it's just a few videos. So the thing is, like, good people like yourself, and like even I would say, I don't want to say I'm good, but we need to have those sort of people in the park. Like I know Shabir Yusuf doesn't come anymore, because otherwise we're just gonna get the loons representing us, or the ones that just go there for beef, and or for the drama, and it's gonna make Muslims look really bad. So we
yeah, but
have to have a presence.
yeah, no, but that's the thing. Even if you go there, I mean, it's only going to be a matter of time before something takes everyone's attention
That's the thing,
away.
but I just feel like as long as we've got a healthy group of people there that are just showing the other side, I think Alhamdulillah, inshallah, it will be good.
Yeah, no, definitely,
But
definitely. I mean, that
gentlemen,
Speaker's Corner is still a good place to give dawah,
definitely.
and
But
people shouldn't be discouraged. But yeah,
I think we've had a good show. I've got work in the morning.
Yeah, definitely.
Jazakallah. Yeah, so it's a good. I think it's been a good first one. What do you think?
yeah, definitely. I think we should also try and invite people like people with opposing views, and have
Yeah,
a
but
good
as a
civil.
first show, we just want to keep it, as ourselves and as an introduction and talk about various subjects and whatnot.
Yeah, so that
Definitely,
sounds good. No, it's been good, man. Well done. I think you've held, mashallah, bro. You've done really well in this show. Like you've structured it well. We've had a kind of structure. We've kept. So inshallah, hopefully we can have more shows like this. Definitely, it's been a real pleasure.
definitely,
Inshallah.
definitely.
Take care. Assalamu alaikum to everyone in the chat. I hope everyone
Thank you
goes
to all
goes
the
well.
viewers.
Nice to speak to you again, Evie, and inshallah we'll have more shows. Take care. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
So, EB.
What's happening? Are we still live?
Yeah, at the moment we are, yeah. I just want to talk about self-reflection,
Let's.
and
Yeah.
because I was thinking, as a sole, basically the sole representative of Sikhism in the park is Raj, right? So he really needs to ask himself: is he attracting people towards his faith, or is he pushing them away from what he says and his actions? Because as Muslims, we still have our good and bad at the park. So at least we have our good, but his community has no good, as far as I can see.
Who's that?
He's the sole
Raj.
voice. Yeah, yeah.
I think Raj has been driven into this whole freedom thing. And with freedom, you have to accept the fact that you are allowed to say things that are deemed immoral or wrong by other people. And
Hmm.
even in Sikhism, I don't think Sikhism would promote anyone to stand next to someone that's openly racist. Uh,
That's the thing. Most of these people who say they're Sikh, they don't really know their own religion or the history properly. As Adnan Rashid has mentioned many times to Raj, he's on this whole freedom of speech thing, but it's not
yeah,
really like that.
No, I'm not saying. Yeah, some people are saying in the comments that so Raj doesn't claim to represent Sikhs. We're not
Like,
saying that he claims to represent Sikhs,
I mean,
but we're saying that he's standing up for principles that are not part of
exactly.
his. Yeah, I mean, freedom or freedom of speech is not something that is part of Sikhism. So I don't know why you're trying to adopt it to yourself.
I mean, the irony is that in the Sikh holy book, there's writings in there from Muslim poets. How about that?
So,
And
so
and 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 and, and the founder of the religion also said that our prophet is a prophet, and he respected him. He never said anything negative about him. So I mean, the behavior of the Sikhs in comparison to how they should be, how the religion tells them that they should be, is different. Like Raj isn't.
yeah,
However, from the comments section I see from the various live streams, still get support from a Sikh community, which is I find strange. It would be the equivalent of our comment sections supporting Anjem Chowdhury, for example.
yeah. But that's the thing. I said he got dragged into this whole freedom agenda that he even forgot his own principles. So I mean, I guess that's how much he hates Islam. That he's willing to
I
sacrifice
mean,
his
I don't
own.
know who coined this term in Speaker's Corner recently, but their hate for Islam is strong, is greater than their love for their own people, and that goes for all of them across the board. Whether you're Turkish like Hassan, or Indian Punjabi Sikh like Raj, or
Yeah, but that's what I said in the beginning. They would rather focus on Islam than work on the people that are suffering in their own communities. Do you get it?
mm,
So, like with Tommy Robinson, he might have people that are on crack cocaine. He might have a lot of people in his own community that are, like, girls that are, teenage pregnancy problems, broken down families, homelessness. He's got all of these problems within his own community that
yes,
he calls, native British people, to be more specific, white people, right? But then your focus is on Islam, something that has got nothing to do with homelessness, something that has nothing to do with teenage pregnancy,
mm,
something that has got nothing to do with people being addicted to crack cocaine, something that has got nothing to do with, all of these alcohol problems, alcohol abuse, alcohol addicts, all of these issues that have got nothing to do with Islam that you should be worried about, that is causing the destruction of your people. uh, all of a sudden your focus is on something else. So to me, that is a person that doesn't care about his people. You literally don't care about your people because you literally have problems on your front door, right? So if I have problems in the Muslim community, right? If there's problems in the Muslim community, why am I trying to go and focus on the Sikh community? It doesn't
exactly.
make sense to me. Why would I try and go and focus on the Christian community, right?
Mm. Also,
So,
just quickly want to address someone in the chat called Iced Bunda. I think that's how you say it. And
mm, Ice
what
Banda,
I'd like to
Ice.
say, yeah,
Mm,
what I'd like to say to that person, I think going off by the comments, he may be a Sikh. So what I'd like to say to him is, it would be good to see a different representative from your community at the park, so we don't have Raj to go off of, you know, and for others as well. At least we know Sikhs, but other people don't know who Sikhs are. So like
mm,
for around the world who watch that, so they'll think, oh, is this what Sikhs are like? And they just look at Raj and like, they use him as a barometer of what all Sikhs are like.
yeah,
So would, like I said, where I don't know, it's
I
probably been
think
a
they
year, but
have
I'm just
been.
going to the
I think they
park and no
have
one's
been
really
in the.
stepped forward to take that role.
I think there have been in the past a couple of Sikhs that have come
But I
down
mean,
and
yeah, but they've
spoken to
been there
Raj.
the odd time. It hasn't been consistent, and they haven't really said. No one, like for example, you get our guys. Not that I condone it or I say don't do this, but they'll call out people they disagree with. But we haven't seen that from the community.
Yeah, true. I don't think people are even interested in. I mean, people can see what Raj is. I don't think people from the Sikh community need to come down and try and, you know, defend Sikhism. I think everyone can see that Raj is definitely not representing Sikhs. or Sikhism. So
Oh yeah, but the same could be said when we see people like Anjum Chowdhury and people extremists like that. But you still have to go out there and be proactive and show a different side, show the truth, if you will.
yeah, true, true.
Because again, he's the sole representative of that community at the park with a voice.
Yeah, but the thing is this: when do you, you know, how much do you put out there? That's the opposite view. There's so many videos and whatever that's out there that's opposing the ideology of ISIS, for example. So the question is how much do you focus on these topics? It's like, Muslims have
No, no, I'm
condemned.
not saying no, I'm not saying we need to. I think they need to
Yeah.
because no one has done that from their side yet.
Yeah.
I mean, for Muslims, obviously, it's an ongoing thing, which is always is always at the forefront, you know. But yeah, anyway,
Um,
yeah, I think that's it for us. So like 2 a.m. It's probably been almost a 3 hour show.
yeah, I guess we should call it a night.
Yeah. So everyone watching, thanks very much for joining me in part of this. And all right, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.